Chapter 4420. P.S. Read the exclusive story behind Campus Belle's Bodyguard and listen to more of your suggestions on the novel. Follow Chidian's official account, add friends on WeChat, add the official account, and type Xiao and tell me secretly. However, when they really entered the strange new sea route, the gap suddenly became apparent. Under the sea fog, the visibility had unknowingly dropped to less than 20 meters. Between the 32 ships, they could still hear the sound of each other riding the wind and waves, but they could no longer see each other's silhouette, and some of them could not even be seen clearly. Visibility, for all navigators, was the most critical and important. Once the visibility was reduced, it meant that there was no way to observe the environment in advance to avoid risks. When the eyes lost their function, especially in such a completely strange new sea route, it could be imagined how fatal it would be. Whether they lived or died, everything depended on luck. Even the most experienced sailor would be shaken in the face of a situation like this. Lin Yi, on the other hand, didn't have any experience at all. His knowledge of sailing was limited to the basics, and he couldn't even control the ship as he pleased. His face was calm and confident. Bang! Not far away, there was a sudden loud noise, and then there was the sound of seawater pouring into the cabin, accompanied by a hoarse cry for help. However, this voice was soon drowned by the huge waves. There was no doubt that the ship not far away must have hit a submerged reef, which resulted in the destruction of the ship and the death of the crew. However, there was nothing they could do about it. In this kind of visibility, they couldn't even see the ship 20 meters away, let alone the submerged reef hidden under the sea. Before the sound on this side had completely subsided, there was another loud bang on the other side. The result was the same as here, another submerged reef. They had just set off, but in the blink of an eye, the ships on the left and right had been destroyed one after another. As for places farther away, there were probably many people who suffered the same fate, but they were all covered by the sound of the surrounding wind and waves, so Lin Yi could not hear it. In the face of all this, ordinary people would tremble with fear, as if they were walking on thin ice, and even couldn't help but have the idea of escaping, especially if they were in Lin Yi's position. Qi Wenhan had already said that as long as he could return safely, it would be fine even if he turned back halfway. Even if they had to turn back halfway, it would be fine. If it were anyone else, they would have already turned around without a care for anything else. But Lin Yi didn't plan to do that at all. Even if he couldn't see what was going on in front of him, and he didn't know if he'd end up like the other ships, crashing into the rocks and destroying the ship, he was still calm and collected. It could even be said that he was unusually calm. Lin Yi had absolute confidence in this. He couldn't judge the situation in front of him just by relying on his own perception, but don't forget that the jade pendant on him had a natural warning function. 100% accuracy. In this situation, it was the best time to maximize the warning function of the jade pendant. It didn't matter if he didn't know where the hidden reef was. I don't know if there is a whirlpool ahead, but it doesn't matter. I don't know where the fixed point pirates are, but it didn't matter. As long as the jade pendant sounded its warning, they would immediately change course and adjust to a route that didn't have any warning. Naturally, everything would be fine, and they would be able to easily avoid all undetectable risks. The warning function of the jade pendant was simply tailor-made for the current environment. With the help of such a powerful golden finger, Lin Yi was really relaxed and happy when he steered the ship. If one looked down from mid-air through the layers of sea fog, they would see an extremely strange scene at this time. On the vast sea, there were wreckages everywhere, and on the sea in front of them, sailboat number 5 was constantly moving in all kinds of strange routes. One moment it was zigzagging, the next moment it was snake-like. In short, it didn't move in a straight line, but twisted. However, it was precisely this strange and twisted route that allowed it to skillfully avoid all the hidden reefs and even the giant whirlpools that appeared from time to time. The scene looked extremely dangerous and thrilling. Only Lin Yi, the ship's controller, felt very at ease. This round of the competition was exactly as everyone had predicted. They hadn't even reached the halfway point, and the 32 escort agencies were almost completely wiped out. Wherever Lin Yi passed, he could see the wreckage of ships from time to time, as well as the strange carnivorous fish in the sea. As for the escorts, not even their corpses could be found. Not even their bones were left. If it wasn't for the warning function of the jade pendant, even Lin Yi would probably follow in the footsteps of the others and be stuffed into the stomachs of these ferocious and bloodthirsty carnivorous fish. Of course, there was no such thing as if in this world. If it really wasn't for the jade pendant, Lin Yi wouldn't have taken the initiative to fight. 21 ships. Lin Yi silently calculated in his heart. This was the number of wreckages he had seen along the way, which meant that at least 21 escort agencies had been eliminated in this round of dangerous sailing. This was just what he could see. If he included the ones that he hadn't seen, the total number would probably be close to 30. Such a high elimination rate was really outrageous. Moreover, Lin Yi also noticed that among the wreckages, there was no lack of high-ranking serial numbers, such as number 2. This meant that even the Divine Wind Escort Agency, a traditional aristocrat, had been defeated like the other escort agencies. Such a dangerous competition, no one should be able to complete it under normal circumstances. I wonder who designed it? Lin Yi couldn't help but feel a little strange. This point struck him the most, not only because of the wreckages he had seen along the way, but also because of the route he had taken. In retrospect, it was strange no matter how he looked at it. The complexity and danger of this sea route was really far beyond ordinary people's imagination. Without the help of a golden finger like the jade pendant, not to mention the competition, even if they were to slowly explore it bit by bit, it would take at least a month's time before they could barely find a path. Otherwise, no matter how many people came, they would all die. In short, this was not a place that could be used for a competition. As Lin Yi was muttering in his heart, suddenly after a turn, there was a sound that was different from the usual wind and waves not far ahead. Listening carefully, it was clearly a ship sailing swiftly in front of him. Lin Yi couldn't help but be shocked. Who on earth was in front of him? There was actually an expert who could actually gallop on this kind of sea route, and from the sound of this speed, it wasn't slow at all. Because of the sea fog, Lin Yi couldn't see the serial number of the ship in front of him, and even his divine sense was blocked. However, he could at least judge that it was definitely a participating ship in this competition. Otherwise, who would have nothing better to do and come to such a dangerous place to sail? While Lin Yi was puzzled at the back, on the sailboat in front of him, a middle-aged man at the helm also noticed the existence of Lin Yi at the same time. This is a good activity that fell from the sky. A cool phone is waiting for you. Follow, /WeChat official account, add friends on WeChat, and add WeChat official account. Enter Xiaoshuo. Participate immediately. Everyone has a prize. Now follow the WeChat official account of Xiaoshuo immediately. Chapter 44:21. P.S. Read the exclusive story behind School Beauty's personal bodyguard and listen to your suggestions for the novel. Follow the official account, WeChat add friends, add public account, type Xiaoshuo, and tell me in secret. He couldn't help but be shocked by this as well, and the degree of shock was even greater than Lin Yi's. What's going on? Could it be a ready-made one? The middle-aged man was both surprised and suspicious. His name was Wang Baityao, and he used to be one of the most famous pirates in the cold magic sea. However, he was later subdued by Boundless Sea and became an escort for the Four Seas Escort Agency. Putting everything else aside, in terms of familiarity with the dark cold sea region, there was absolutely no one in this world who could compare to him, Wang Baityao. After all, he was born and raised here. Whether it was as a pirate or as an armed escort, he had always been on the sea. He was definitely a local tyrant, especially this stretch of the sea route. For this competition, he had specially spent 2 months measuring it bit by bit before finally finding the safest route to and fro. Apart from himself, no one else in the world knew about it. As a result, Wang Baityao was completely confident in this competition. All of the other escort agencies had been wiped out. Only the Four Seas Escort Agency's boat number 1 had successfully returned. This was Boundless Sea's request. Everything had been going smoothly. The boats that should have capsized had pretty much all capsized. But Wang Baityao never would have thought that someone would suddenly appear at this time. Wang Baityao didn't believe that this guy had relied on his own strength to catch up. No matter how good his sailing skills were, it was impossible for him to do this. The only explanation was that this guy had been picking up ready-made goods along the way. That was the only plausible explanation. How can I do this? If I let this guy follow us back unscathed, wouldn't Chief Escort High skin me alive? Wang Baiqiao broke out in cold sweat from fright. Don't look at how Boundless Sea was an escort agency. When he did things, he was much more ruthless than any pirate. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been subdued so easily. Even if Wang Baiqiao had 10 guts, he wouldn't dare go back and face Boundless Sea's wrath. Although he had made up his mind to get rid of the ship behind him, Wang Baiqiao did not dare to act rashly before he understood the situation. In this place, one did not necessarily have to fight to the death to kill. This sea route was a natural death trap. As long as one made good use of it, let alone killing a single person, he would kill 10,000 people without hesitation. The two ships, one in front and one behind, maintained a distance that was neither too far nor too close. After a while, the first ship in front suddenly changed its course and moved in a large zigzag pattern. It wasn't that it did this on purpose, but that there were dense reefs in front of it, and if it didn't move like this, it would be impossible to pass. Meanwhile, Wang Baiqiao was also using this opportunity to observe the movements of the ship behind him. It would be best if they couldn't keep up, or they would definitely die on this reef. If they caught up, it would prove that the ship behind them was indeed picking up a ready-made catch, and it had already locked onto them. Although he didn't know what kind of ultimate technique the other party had to be able to stare at him in the sea mist that blocked the divine sense of a cultivator, he didn't know what it was. But the other party did it. A moment later, a cold light flashed in Wang Baiqiao's eyes. That ship actually followed them. This guy was indeed a ready-made follower. From start to finish, Wang Baiqiao had never considered the possibility that they were sailing with their own strength, because in everyone's knowledge, such a possibility didn't exist. There were no exceptions. Little did they know that there were some things in the world that ordinary people couldn't imagine. This guy's technique isn't bad. Wang Baiqiao curled his lips and coldly snorted. If they were in an ordinary sea region, there wouldn't be any difficulty to speak of. But under the interference of this thick sea mist, walking in such a large zigzag pattern and not being thrown off was a test of skill. If one wasn't experienced enough, they wouldn't be able to do this. From the looks of it, it would be very difficult for Wang Baiqiao to rely on speed to throw off the ship behind him. Even if he knew the safe route, he didn't dare to increase his speed. There were too many dangers in this place, and the slightest accident could lead to the destruction of the ship and the death of everyone. No one dared to take such a risk. But then Wang Baiqiao's lips curled into a sinister smile. Since you're determined to pick up a ready-made catch, then you'd better follow me closely. Just in time for this daddy to add some spice to your plan. One in front, one behind, the two ships broke through the waves. In the control cabin of the number 5 ship, Lin Yi was growing more and more bewildered. He had been able to travel safely all this way thanks to the warning of his jade pendant, but what was the situation with the ship in front of him? It couldn't be that the other party also had a jade pendant, could it? But according to Lin Yi's observation, he found that the route chosen by the ship in front of him, especially when it came to the various turns, was far smoother than his. He himself could only change direction after receiving the warning of the jade pendant. Many times, if he failed to adjust at the first time, he would have to adjust again, causing the route to be very twisted and stiff. But the ship in front of him was different. Every time, it accurately turned into a turn ahead of time, as if it knew the safe route. It was smooth and natural. It seems that this South Continent Escort Agency Grand Gathering, which claims to be absolutely fair, can't avoid shady tricks. Linny smiled mockingly. He wouldn't believe it if someone told him that the ship in front of him hadn't prepared meticulously beforehand. Even if they had a golden finger, it wouldn't be possible for them to do it so naturally. But in this way, following behind the ship saved Lin Yi a lot of trouble. At least when he received the warning of the jade pendant, he wouldn't be as flustered as before. As long as he listened to the changes in the sound of the water ahead, he could prepare in advance, which made it much easier. From the beginning to the end, Lin Yi didn't think about overtaking the ship in front of him. First, it was not necessary. After all, this round of competition was not based on ranking. As long as he could successfully return to the sea within a certain time, he would be able to get the corresponding points. It wasn't completely a life-and-death competition between them. Second, this sea route was too dangerous. Even if Linny had the warning of the Jade Pendant and was in an invincible position, he didn't dare to advance rashly, because doing so would be equivalent to courting death. To be honest, his sailing level was probably not even at the beginner level. It was limited to controlling the ship, and he wasn't even fully proficient in it. If he really competed with those real sailing experts, it was very likely that he would make mistakes in his haste. When that time came, even the warning of the Jade Pendant wouldn't be able to save him. Linny also knew this, so he wouldn't do stupid things. The only thing he had to do now was to steadily reach the necessary point and return. All other distracting thoughts were fleeting. Suddenly, the frequent warning of the Jade Pendant sounded again. Linny listened to the sound of the ship in front of him and found that it was turning sharply to the right. What a great event! The cool phone is waiting for you. Follow, click/Chinese official account, add friends on WeChat, add official account, enter Xiaoshuo, and participate immediately. Everyone has a prize. Follow the official account of Xiaoshuo now. Floating Astronomy. Chapter 4422. P.S. Read the exclusive story behind Campus Belle's Bodyguard and listen to more of your suggestions on the novel. Follow the official account, WeChat add friends, add the official account, type DD, and tell me secretly. Linny immediately made the decision to turn right without hesitation. The person in front obviously knew the safe route, so it was definitely right to follow him. Top novel, however, immediately afterward, Linny's eyelids suddenly twitched. After he made the right turn, the warning of the Jade Pendant not only did not weaken, but became shorter and more intense. Still not out of danger? Linny was shocked. He subconsciously confirmed the position of the ship ahead and found that it was indeed on the right. That's right. Linny did not dare to neglect it. He immediately turned the bow again and changed to a wide turn to the left. After a while, the warning of the Jade Pendant finally stopped. Did the person in front finally make a mistake? Linny was secretly surprised. Along the way, he could be sure that the person in front must know the safe route, otherwise he could not have reached this place. Theoretically, as long as he followed him, there should be no problem. However, compared with the warning of his Jade Pendant, Linny certainly chose to believe the warning of the Jade Pendant without hesitation. After all, people always made mistakes, but the Jade Pendant never did. What Linny didn't know was that shortly after he turned the bow again, after the ship ahead passed by, a huge whirlpool suddenly appeared in the sea. The turbulence was enough to drag any sailing ship into it. It was inevitable that the ship would be destroyed and people would die. Only a sea giant like a treasure ship could pass through it smoothly. If Linny did not turn the bow in time but foolishly followed the ship ahead, the result could be imagined. Once the ship was destroyed, there would be no one to help him. Even with Linny's strength, there was no chance for him to survive. Hee, let's see how you die this time. Wang Baitiao laughed wildly in ship number 1 as he listened to the turbulence of the whirlpool not far behind them. There was no need to look at this situation at all. Even if God followed them, they would definitely die. Unlike clearly existing reefs, the existence of the whirlpool was a great headache for any experienced navigator. The reason was that it was uncertain. No one knew where or when it would appear, but once it appeared, it would be a devastating disaster. Basically, any standard sailing ship that was dragged into the whirlpool would only have the same miserable ending. As a local tyrant, Wang Baitiao knew everything about the devilish cold sea region like the back of his hand, especially the distribution of the submerged reefs. However, even he could not predict when and where the whirlpools would appear. However, the whirlpools here were the only ones that could not be predicted. But the whirlpool here was an exception. It was not an ordinary whirlpool, but a legendary whirlpool. There was no such whirlpool in other places. Only in the South Continent Sea area. It was passed down from generation to generation. It sounded very magical at first, but it was actually because the South Continent Sea area was densely covered with submerged reefs. In addition, there were some special topographical features that formed naturally. It could also be considered a rare natural wonder. It was said that during normal times, The bait vortex was hidden under the surface of the sea and was as still as water. Ordinary people could neither see nor feel it. However, once a ship passed by it, it would cause the water to surge. As if it had cast a bait, the invisible vortex would immediately appear and swallow the ship behind it. This was the legendary bait vortex. The existence of the bait vortex was harmless to the first ship that passed by, but it was a devastating disaster for the ships following behind. In the past, many exploration fleets in the South Continent had survived all kinds of dangers, but they had died in the hands of the bait vortex. It couldn't be helped. Once the bait vortex was awakened, it would appear very quickly and suddenly. The ships following behind often relied heavily on the leading ship, so they couldn't react immediately. Even if they did, it would already be too late. This bait vortex was the death trap that Wang Baijiao had prepared for Lin Yi. If it was purely to avoid the reefs ahead, he could have turned left or right. Normally, to avoid triggering the bait vortex, Wang Baijiao would usually turn left. Only this time, in order to deal with Lin Yi, he chose to turn right. There's no problem now. 31 out of 32 escort agencies had their ships destroyed, and I'm the only one who returned safely. Chief Escort Hai won't blame me now, right? Wang Baijiao hummed a tune proudly. The strength of the Four Seas Escort Agency was second to none amongst the 32 escort agencies. Coupled with the pull of the second round of the Perilous Regions voyage, the other 4 escort agencies were absolutely unable to catch up to them. Taking the first place was as easy as taking something out of one's pocket, a piece of cake. However, before Wang Baijiao could even sing half of his tune, a sailboat suddenly appeared on the left, not far away. They were so close that they almost collided. The huge 5 on the sail was clearly reflected in Wang Baijiao's eyes. Fuck, that's the Heavens Equal Escort Agency's boat? Wang Baijiao's soul almost jumped out of his body. He stumbled and fell onto the deck, his face full of shock as if he had seen a ghost. This is an AF*King Ghost ship, is it? Of course he could guess that this Heavens Equal Escort Agency's boat number 5 was definitely the one that had been following behind him. But hadn't that guy been swallowed by the bait vortex? How did he come out from the side and somehow get in front of him? Shaking his head, Wang Baijiao fiercely slapped himself twice in the face. Only then did he manage to wake up from his shock. He stood up and steered the boat again, gritting his teeth as he looked at the boat number 5 in front of him. F***CK. What kind of trick is this guy up to? He actually managed to get here from the left. Even if he's lucky, this isn't how he got here, right? Does he know the safe route too? After thinking about it carefully, Wang Baijiao quickly overturned this conjecture. This was because this competition had been suggested by the Four Seas Escort Agency at the last minute. The other escort agencies couldn't have made any preparations. Moreover, Wang Baijiao was the only one who had been scouting this route. The safe route was only in his head. If even Boundless Sea didn't know, then how could anyone else? No matter how he thought about it, Wang Baijiao finally came to a damned conclusion. This guy from the Equal of Heaven Escort Agency had really run into some heaven-defying dog shit luck. He hadn't been able to keep up with the bait whirlpool earlier, and had somehow managed to escape by accident. Now, he had circled over from the left. I don't care what kind of luck you have. Since you dared to get in front of me, then don't even think about it anymore. I'll just ram you to death. Wang Baijiao immediately became vicious. Don't forget that he was a pirate. When he saw other ships at sea, his first reaction wasn't to greet them in a friendly manner, but to think of a way to sink them. What a great event, like a pie falling from the sky. A cool phone waiting for you. Follow, click on the official account, WeChat add friends, add official account, type DD, and immediately participate. There's a prize for everyone. Immediately follow DD's official account. Floating Astronomy. Chapter 44-23. P.S. Read the exclusive story behind School Bell's Bodyguard and listen to more of your suggestions for the novel. Follow Chidian's official account, add friends on WeChat, and add the official account by typing Xiaosheo and tell me in secret. Bang! Sailboat number 1 suddenly adjusted its direction and accelerated, charging straight towards the side of sailboat number 5. It looked as if it would kill itself if it couldn't kill it. He might not be good in other aspects, but when it came to crashing into ships, Wang Baijiao's skill was definitely at the peak. He used to be in this line of work. Not to mention when he was a pirate, even when he joined the Four Seas Escort Agency as an escort, he had crashed into and sunk many ships, but the targets were pirates. Lin Yi hadn't stabilized his footing and almost suffered a huge loss. Fortunately, the jade pendant warned him in time, and he barely managed to adjust the position of the sailboat at the last moment. Otherwise, with the opponent's ferocious momentum, if he was really hit on the side, not to mention the whole boat would be chopped in half, at least capsizing would be a sure thing. Even so, Lin Yi's sailboat number 5 was forcefully knocked off the safe route and almost crashed into a submerged reef not far away. One could imagine the outcome. With Lin Yi's rusty sailing skills, it was already quite rare for him to be able to stabilize the direction under such circumstances. However, Wang Baijiao didn't intend to let him off so easily. If the first time didn't work, he would try again. If the second time didn't work, he would try again. In any case, based on their positions, Wang Baijiao had the absolute initiative. Lin Yi, who was in front, didn't even have a chance to fight back and could only let him ravage him. Bang! The boat shook again. Because it was prepared, it wasn't as unprepared as before, but it still didn't feel much better. Reckless fool. Lin Yi's eyes flashed with murderous intent. If it was someone else in his position, the only way to deal with this situation would probably be to speed up and shake off the opponent. But on this completely unfamiliar and dangerous sea route, increasing speed at all costs was tantamount to seeking death. In fact, this was exactly what Wang Baijiao was planning at the moment. In his eyes, there were only two choices for sailboat number 5. Either he would crash into it and sink it, or he would speed up and shake him off. No matter which one it was, he would still die. However, what he did not know was that Lin Yi actually had a third option, which was to jump off the ship. Kill him, Wang Baijiao. For Lin Yi, killing a golden core stage expert was a simple matter. After killing him, if nothing happened to his number 5 sailboat, then he would jump back to the number 5 sailboat and continue the competition. If something happened, then he would simply drive the number 1 sailboat back. In any case, the competition was about the person, not the boat. As long as Lin Yi returned safely, when the time came, the equal of Heaven Escort Agency would still get the points. On the other side, Wang Baijiao was still feeling smug, thinking that he had completely forced Lin Yi into a dead end. Little did he know that he himself was the one standing at the gates of hell. He would have to report to the King of Hell. Brimming with confidence, Wang Baijiao immediately charged forward for the third time. Just as he was about to hit the target, he discovered that the sail of the number 5 sailboat suddenly turned. It had actually changed direction, heading directly to the right. Trying to run? Wang Baijiao's eyelids twitched, and he instinctively wanted to chase. However, he was suddenly shocked. According to the safe route he had previously explored, he had to turn left now. If he went to the right, although it was not completely impossible, when he had explored before, even a small boat would have a hard time passing through, let alone a large sailboat like this. There was no chance of passing through safely. On the other hand, the left path was much smoother. Since I'm going to die anyway, then I'll let you off this time and let you fend for yourself. Wang Baijiao cursed with some regret, and then turned the boat to the left. After all, he could not very well sink Lin Yi and bury himself with him. As he fantasized about Lin Yi's miserable death, he hummed a little tune proudly. Wang Baijiao was in a good mood again, but not long after, when he saw the silhouette of a small boat in front of him gradually becoming clearer in the sea fog, Wang Baijiao's happiness immediately disappeared, and his expression turned extremely ugly. The tonnage of this boat was extremely small, not even 1/10 of Wang Baijiao's sailboat, and it could only seat 5 people. If they were to clash head-on, Wang Baijiao could completely crush them. However, even if Wang Baijiao had 100 guts, he would never dare to do so. This was because he could not be more familiar with the black flag of a skeleton hanging on the boat. These were F*King pirates. According to the rules of the competition, there would be a random location on the sea route, and fixed-point pirates would be directly airdropped by flying spirit beasts. Because the coordinates were randomly messed up by the 5 judges, Even the Four Seas escort agency could not predict it in advance. To Wang Baityao, this was also the only unknown factor. Never in his wildest dreams did he expect that after such thorough preparation, he would still run into fixed-point pirates in the end. Man proposes, God disposes. Could this be God's will? Before Wang Baityao could react further, the fixed-point pirates had already charged over aggressively. Wang Baityao vision immediately turned black, and he spat out a mouthful of blood in anger. This was because he suddenly remembered that sailboat number 5 had turned to the right very suddenly. Even if they wanted to escape on such an extremely dangerous sea route, they would not turn around rashly. From the looks of it now, it did not seem to be as simple as a cornered dog jumping over a wall, but there was a deeper meaning behind it. Although he was an Oris Core expert, Wang Baityao had never believed that there was anyone in this world who could foresee the future. He felt that this was all just a rumor. But today, he finally believed it, but it was too late. At the Demon Cold Pier, everyone was looking forward to it. Although the people in charge of the various escort agencies did not have much hope, they still held on to a sliver of hope. Even if the people they sent out were all old, weak, sick, or disabled, what if they got some heaven-defying luck? The others were fine, as they were not too nervous. But Qi Wenhan's side was really burning with anxiety. On one hand, he had to keep an eye on whether there were any ships coming back. On the other hand, he had to check how many incense sticks had been burned from time to time. At the same time, he had to keep an eye on the mother formation of the jade tokens to see if the 5th jade token was safe and sound. A pair of eyes was not enough at all. Not long after the crowd set off, the sliver of hope in the hearts of the various escort agencies was completely shattered. The situation at the mother formation of the jade tokens was constantly changing. There were a total of 32 jade tokens, and they shattered almost one after another. In less than the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, 30 of the 32 jade tokens had shattered. In the short time it took for half an incense stick to burn, they were almost completely wiped out. Such a high death rate really made one's scalp go numb. The escorts of the various escort agencies at the pier could not help but secretly rejoice that they had held back just now. It's a great event, like a pie falling from the sky. Cool phones are waiting for you. Follow, click on the official account, add friends on WeChat, add the official account, enter Xiaoshuo, and participate immediately. Everyone has a prize. Follow the official account of Xiaoshuo now. Chapter 44-24. P.S. Read the exclusive story behind School Bell's Bodyguard and listen to more of your suggestions for the novel. Follow Chidian's official account, add friends on WeChat, and add the official account by typing Xiaosheo and tell me secretly. Otherwise, he would have been buried in the stomach of the fishes. Qi Wenhan trembled in fear as he listened to the sounds of the jade token shattering. He struggled for a long time before he dared to look. No matter how strong his mental fortitude was, he could not withstand such torment. Fortunately, the number 5 jade token was still intact. Out of the 32 jade tokens, only 2 were left. One was number 1, and the other was number 5. The person in charge of the Four Seas escort agency was full of confidence from start to finish. He did not even look at the jade token's mother formation, as if the outcome was already set in stone. Qi Wenhan felt slightly more at ease now that he had made it this far. It seemed like he had made the right choice. Lingyi never did anything he was not confident of. Since he dared to go, it meant that he was very confident. The situation of the jade token's mother formation was proof of that. But even so, Qi Wenhan did not dare to completely relax before he saw Lin Yi return safely. He was still praying nervously in his heart, hoping that there would be no accidents. The time it took to burn a stick of incense was not long, but it was not short either. According to the rules of the competition, if one could return within the time it took to burn a stick of incense, the highest score would be 200 points. But this was only limited to theory. There were so many agencies in the first round, and so many lives had been lost. In the end, only the Four Seas escort agency had scored more than 100 points. How could points be obtained so easily? Therefore, the high score of 200 points only looked beautiful. In fact, it was just a decoration in the air. Normally, no one would be able to achieve it. Although no one had personally participated in the competition, it was easy to imagine that it would be taken out in such a gathering of experts. This part of the sea route was definitely not simple. The death rate of almost everyone was the best proof. Moreover, it was a full 40 miles back and forth. How could it be easy to return within the time it took to burn a stick of incense? Anyone with a bit of common sense did not think that anyone could return within the time it took to burn a stick of incense, especially now that only 2 of the 32 agencies were left, not to mention the time it took to burn a stick of incense. Someone could return within the time it took to burn 3 sticks of incense. That was already very rare. A ship is coming. Seeing that the first stick of incense was about to burn out, someone suddenly shouted. There was a sudden uproar at the dock. Everyone stood on tiptoe and looked at each other. The experts suddenly opened their mouths wide in surprise and looked at each other. Could it be a foreign ship? Someone couldn't help but mutter suspiciously. Immediately, many people at the side agreed. Although the dock was temporarily blocked, it couldn't completely prohibit foreign ships from entering the port, so it wouldn't be surprising if it was a foreign ship. But immediately after, as the sailboat got closer and closer, its silhouette obscured by the sea fog became clearer and clearer. Everyone gave up on this speculation because of the sailboat. It was clearly a standard sailboat used in competitions. Wang Baityao has improved. Boundless Sea and the other 4 judges were sitting together. Seeing this, he couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. In the previous special practice, Wang Baityao best result was 2 incense sticks worth of time. According to the rules of the competition, he would be able to get 100 points, no more, no less. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that this brat would actually be able to give such a pleasant surprise. This was like getting an extra 100 points for no reason at all. Congratulations. It looks like this year's champion is the 4 Seas Escort Agency again. On the side, Zhao Bufan and the others all cupped their hands and congratulated Boundless Sea. In their hearts, they felt helpless. This allowed the 4 Seas Escort Agency to get an extra 200 points. Their escort agencies really didn't have any chance at all. There was nothing they could do. This sort of situation had already been predicted before this competition. As one of the 5 great escort agency, the 4 Seas Escort Agency's position as the hegemon couldn't be shaken. With its powerful foundation, it was enough to control the outcome of the competition. Against its carrot and stick offensive, it was impossible for anyone not to lower their heads. You flatter me, the competition has just begun. It's still too early to say such things. It's just that we have a bit of an advantage. Everyone still has a chance. Boundless Sea laughed and accepted everyone's congratulations. Intentionally or unintentionally, everyone seemed to have intentionally thrown one thing to the back of their minds. The contestants that were still alive weren't just the 4 Seas Escort Agency's number 1, but also the Heavens Equal Escort Agency's number 5. Hearing Boundless Sea and the others compliment each other, Qi Mingyuan couldn't help but curse them for being hypocritical in his heart. However, he didn't dare to show it. After all, even he didn't believe that the one returning at this time would be his escort agency's Ling one. Okay, this round wasn't easy. As the judges, I feel like we should go and welcome the winners. What does everyone think? Boundless Sea suddenly stood up. His meaning was very clear. He wanted to use this opportunity to properly praise the winners. In other words, he wanted his 4 Seas Escort Agency to be in the limelight. Zhao Bufan and the others couldn't help but look at each other. In their hearts, they all had a stomach full of curses. However, they didn't want to make things difficult for Boundless Sea and the 4 Seas Escort Agency over such a small matter. Since the other side had asked for it, then they would just pinch their noses and support him. The leaders of the 5 escort agencies immediately went to the very front of the dock and personally waited for the sailboat to dock. The crowd immediately went into an uproar. This kind of treatment was truly unprecedented. These 5 people represented the highest echelons of the southern continent's escort industry. Number 5. It's number 5. Someone suddenly shouted from the crowd. Soon after, more and more people saw the number on the sailboat. They were all incomparably shocked and began to discuss among themselves. Boundless Sea was originally full of pride, but when he saw the number clearly, his entire body instantly froze. His face instantly sank like the bottom of a pot, and he couldn't say anything for a long time. On the other hand, Qi Mingyuan and Qi Wanhan, as well as everyone from the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency, were instantly overjoyed. Their cheers shook the heavens. The boat reached the shore, and Lin Yi jumped off the boat. He glanced at the unfinished incense stick, and then looked in astonishment at Boundless Sea and the others in front of him, all of whom had brilliant expressions on their faces. He turned to Qi Mingyuan and Qi Wenhan and smiled faintly. "Not bad, I didn't fail you." In reality, if it wasn't for the fact that the last part of the sea was extremely difficult to traverse, he could have come back even faster. However, there wasn't much of a difference now. In any case, it was still one incense stick's worth of time, so the points were the same. Too awesome. Too awesome. Qi Wenhan and the others were so excited that they immediately lifted Linny up. Each and every one of them shouted and jumped, unable to contain their excitement. "Looks like we have to congratulate Head Escort Qi. It really is unexpected and out of the ordinary." After being stunned for a moment, Zhao Bufan and the others turned to Qi Mingyuan and cupped their hands in salute. At the same time, they glanced meaningfully at Boundless Sea to see how he would react. What a great event, like a pie falling from the sky. A cool phone waiting for you. Follow, click on the official account, add friends on WeChat, and add the official account by typing Xiaoshuo, and immediately participate. Everyone has prizes. Immediately follow the official account of Xiaoshuo. Chapter 44-25. P.S. Read the exclusive story behind School Beauty's Personal Bodyguard and listen to your suggestions for the novel. Follow the official account, WeChat, add friends, add the official account, type DD, and tell me in secret. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Qi Mingyuan immediately cupped his hands in greeting. He couldn't hide the joy on his face. He was so excited that he didn't even know what to say. Plus, no wonder he was so excited. Returning within the time it takes to burn a stick of incense was a full 200 points. Even if they won both matches in the first round, they would only get 160 points. Not to mention, no escort agency had ever won a perfect match. Even the strongest escort agency, the Four Seas Escort Agency, only had 120 points. But this way, the situation was instantly reversed by the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. Adding on the 100 points they had won in the first round, they had a full 300 points, leaving all the other escort agencies far behind. They had become an unprecedented dark horse. Impossible. Just as everyone was celebrating, Boundless Sea suddenly spoke up. He pointed at Linny and said, "You ran back halfway, didn't you?" As soon as he said this, the entire stadium fell silent. Everyone's gazes focused on Lin Yi. Apart from the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency's people, everyone else's faces were filled with doubt. Boundless Sea was 100% confident that he could return within the time it takes to burn a stick of incense. Even a local snake like Wang Baityao, who was familiar with the safe route, couldn't do it, let alone a complete stranger from the outside. Linny heard this and smiled. He slowly took out the stamp from his chest pocket and held it up for everyone to see clearly. With this, no one questioned him anymore. They couldn't say that the stamp he had obtained from the required route was also fake, right? Boundless Sea's face turned green and purple. As the head escort of the Four Seas Escort Agency, he was definitely the center of attention in this sort of situation. But in just a short moment, he had been slapped in the face twice. The feeling of being slapped in the face twice in a row was really indescribable. If there was a crack in the ground, he would have already crawled into it and disappeared. Boundless Sea's only chance to save his face was to place his hopes on Wang Baityao. If Wang Baityao could also return within the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, his face as the head escort of the Four Seas Escort Agency wouldn't look too bad. However, when the second incense stick finished burning, not to mention the burning of the first incense stick, even now, the third incense stick was about to burn down. But the number 1 sailboat representing the Four Seas Escort Agency still hadn't returned. If it wasn't for the fact that the number 1 jade tablet hadn't shattered yet, Boundless Sea would have suspected that Wang Baityao had already died. Why isn't this bastard dead yet? Boundless Sea's face was ashen with anger. As the home ground of a powerhouse escort agency, his original spirit of ruling the world had disappeared without a trace. Don't even talk about being in the limelight. He didn't even dare to raise his head in front of the other leaders of the escort agencies, for fear of being laughed at. Finally, when the third incense stick was about to burn out, sailboat number 1 finally arrived, but before everyone could greet it, they discovered that the ship was in tatters and riddled with holes, right in front of everyone's eyes. The hull of the ship was obviously getting shorter and shorter. Finally, it completely sank. Everyone was dumbfounded. Fortunately, they were not far from the pier. Wang Baijiao didn't care about his sorry state and swam back, huffing and puffing. Before Wang Baijiao could swim ashore, the furious Boundless Sea kicked him in the face, sending him back into the sea with a bloody face. He had already used up all his stamina, and now he almost drowned. Wang Baijiao wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Normally, with his skill, he wouldn't have dared to ask for more than 1 incense stick, but he should have been able to make it back in 2. But this time, not only had he tangled with Lin Yi for a while, he had also encountered pirates. Being able to make it back alive was already a miracle. Fortunately, there were his own men from the Four Seas escort agency among the pirates, who secretly went easy on him. Only then did Wang Baijiao have a chance to escape. But even so, he still smashed a large hole in the ship in his panic. Wang Baijiao had been repairing the ship the entire time. This time, he had been able to come back alive because he had used all of his strength to save his life. But in the end, he had to face the wrath of Boundless Sea. The second round of the competition ended. Of the 32 escort agencies, 30 of them had maintained their points from the first round. Only the top 2 had changed. After 2 rounds, the Heavens Equal Escort Agency had a total of 300 points, taking first place. The Four Seas Escort Agency had a total of 170 points, taking second place. Looking at the point rankings, Boundless Sea was filled with regret. For the second round of the competition, he had used all sorts of methods to get everyone to nod their heads. He had originally thought that he would be able to take first place, but he hadn't thought that he would end up shooting himself in the foot. Instead, the Heavens Equal Escort Agency had reaped the fruits of his labor and taken first place. The curtains fell on the first day of the Southern Continent Escort Agency Grand Tournament. The various escort agencies dispersed one after another to rest and build up their strength for the second day of the tournament. Whether it was on the streets or in the inns, everyone in Demon Long City was talking about the Southern Continent Escort Agency Grand Tournament. Among them, the most eye-catching agency was none other than the Heavens Equal Escort Agency. Even though they were one of the 5 great escort agency in the previous Southern Continent Escort Agency Grand Tournament, they didn't have much of a foundation. Aside from in the Fleecy Sea territory, the Heavens Equal Escort Agency wasn't very well known in the entire Southern Continent. Many people didn't even know that they were one of the 5 great escort agency. However, this time, the Heavens Equal Escort Agency's limelight instantly overshadowed all the other escort agencies, including the Four Seas Escort Agency. Their fame and attention skyrocketed, and they were viewed as this year's grand tournament's biggest dark horse, perhaps even the most popular. For any escort agency, fame often meant strength. The more famous they were, the more people recognized their strength, and the more business they would receive. Even the father and son, Qi Mingyuan and Qi Wanhan, had never imagined that the Heavens Equal Escort Agency would one day surpass all the other escort agencies and become the center of everyone's conversation. At the Heavens Equal Escort Agency's celebration banquet, Qi Mingyuan and Qi Wanhan solemnly bowed to Lin Yi with Qi Wanhan. Young hero Ling, you have contributed greatly to today's tournament. On behalf of the entire escort agency, we thank you. Chief Escort Agency, you're too kind. Since I'm a member of the Heavens Equal Escort Agency, it's only right and proper for me to contribute to the agency. Why do you have to do this? Lin Yi hurriedly stopped them. Not at all. You're our agency's great benefactor and hero. No matter how much we thank you, it's only right and proper. There's nothing we can do to repay you. Please accept the 100,000 spirit jades, young hero Ling. It's just a small token of my appreciation, Qi Mingyuan said as he gestured for Qi Wenhan to take out a miniature card reader that had been prepared beforehand. Chapter 4426. P.S. Read the exclusive story behind School Bell's Bodyguard and listen to more of your suggestions for the novel. Follow Chidian's official account, add friends on WeChat, add the official account, and type Xiao and tell me in secret. These people's eyes were wide open, and their faces were filled with unconcealable envy. This was the result of decades of painstaking effort by these people without sleep or rest. What do you mean? Linny paused, frowning as he looked at Qi Mingyuan and Qi Wenhan. I'm fighting on behalf of the escort agency because of our friendship. If this friendship has anything to do with Lingyu, wouldn't it be meaningless? Qi Wenhan's eyes widened. His own Tiandan pavilion earned at least tens of thousands of spiritual jades every day in Middle Island. Lin Yi did not lack spiritual jades at all. The reason why he agreed to participate in the South Continent Escort Agency's Grand Festival was to take the opportunity to deal with Wu Baoyang, and also to help the Heavens Equal Escort Agency. However, it would be too vulgar to accept spiritual jades. Young Hero Ling is a righteous person. This is something we all know, but it is precisely because of this that you must accept this 100,000 spirit jades. Qi Mingyuan said forcefully. Why? Linny could not help but feel puzzled. Brother Ling, could it be that you've forgotten? During the competition during the day, I made it clear to everyone that no matter if it was the first or second round, as long as one participated, regardless of the result, he or she would receive a reward of 5 to 100,000 spirit jades. Now, everyone else has already received their rewards, and only you, Brother Ling, are left. Brother Ling, you can treat spirit jades like dirt, but you can't expect me, the young master of an escort agency, to go back on my word, right? That's right. In the first round of the escort battle, young Hero Ling's on-the-spot command was the greatest. As for the second round of the dangerous region voyage, there's no need to talk about it. Out of the 300 points that our escort agency has earned, 260 points are from young Hero Ling. There's no doubt about this, right? Qi Mingyuan said to everyone. That's right. Escort leader Ling deserves the greatest credit. Everyone in the Heavens Equal Escort Agency agreed. In that case, I really must accept this 100,000 spiritual jade? Linny couldn't help but smile bitterly when he saw this scene. They spoke in unison. He even suspected that these people had deliberately rehearsed this. I have to accept it. To be honest, with young Hero Ling's great contributions, 100,000 spirit jades is too little. 300,000 spirit jades is more like it. It's just that the South Continent Escort Agency's grand gathering has just begun. After this, there are still many places where I need to use spirit jades. Since we're all on the same side, I'll be thick-skinned this time. I can only ask young Hero Ling to forgive me, Qi Mingyuan said with a sincere expression. The South Continent's Escort Agency Grand Meet was actually a grand meet to burn spirit jades. Almost every competition relied on spirit jades to boost morale. Just the amount of spirit jades that the Heavens Equal Escort Agency had given to their escorts on the first day of the competition was already staggering. It had already reached a massive amount of 500,000. Even if the other escort agencies weren't as generous, they wouldn't be too far behind, unless they were willing to lag behind. However, the Heavens Equal Escort Agency was, after all, not a traditional aristocrat like the Four Seas Escort Agency. As the upstart of the previous competition among the 5 major escort agencies, their foundation was actually very limited. Even if they had prepared in advance, they would still inevitably be unable to make ends meet. Therefore, for the sake of the competition tomorrow and the day after, no matter how much the Chi father and son wanted to, they still didn't dare to give too much to Linny now. Otherwise, they might not be able to give out the reward when the time came. That would really make them the laughingstock of the grand meet. All right, if that's the case, then I'll respectfully accept. At this point, Linny had no choice but to nod his head. However, it didn't matter if he accepted the 100,000 spirit jades. After all, before he left, he would refine some medicinal pills for the Heavens Equal Escort Agency, and that would be enough to repay them. Great! Qi Mingyuan and Qi Wenhan were instantly overjoyed. They immediately raised their cups to Lin Yi and the other escorts, saying, "Today's victory was all thanks to young Hero Ling and everyone else's hard work. We, father and son, would like to thank everyone here. In the following competition, I hope that everyone will continue to work hard and bring new heights to our Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. I've prepared a celebratory feast for everyone. When we return to Weiwan City, we won't leave until we're drunk. We won't leave until we're drunk." Everyone raised their cups in celebration, their cheers shaking the heavens. The Heaven's Equal Escort Agency was in high spirits. In comparison, the other escort agencies were far less enthusiastic. This was especially true for the Four Seas Escort Agency, which was regarded as the most popular choice by all in the industry. At this moment, the atmosphere in the agency was extremely heavy and gloomy. In the escort agency's inner hall, Boundless Sea sat in the main seat with a gloomy expression. In front of him, kneeling Wang Baitiao, who had been beaten black and blue, with not a single part of his body unharmed. "Since you've already been punished, then I'll give you a chance to live. Tell me, what exactly happened?" After a long silence, Boundless Sea finally spoke, his expression as dark as water.
Yes.
Wang Baiqiao didn't dare to be negligent. He hastily recounted the entire competition, trembling with fear, from start to finish. He didn't dare to hide anything. After all, if he couldn't persuade Boundless Sea, then his life would be forfeit. "You're saying that there's something strange about that Ling Yi guy from the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency?" Boundless Sea's heart trembled after hearing Boundless Sea's words. "There's definitely something strange. Uncle Sea, you know that I'm the only one who knows how to navigate this part of the ocean. No one else knows. If that kid really was following me, let alone the fact that the fog is so thick that even the most skilled ship engineer would find it hard to follow me closely, even if he was following me closely, how did he manage to avoid the bait whirlpool? It can't be that he just got lucky, right?" Wang Baiqiao hastily said. "Continue," Boundless Sea said, deep in thought. "Yes, and after that, when he was being chased by me, he suddenly chose the most difficult path to take. Even I wasn't confident that I could make it through, but he managed to make it back in the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn. I chose the easier path, but I suddenly encountered fixed-point pirates. Uncle Sea, don't you think this is too strange?" Wang Baiqiao stared at Boundless Sea. "Interesting. One time was luck, but 2 times in a row can't be luck." Boundless Sea's eyes flashed. He rubbed his chin and said, "I heard people say that the reason why the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency was able to get 60 points in the first round was because of this person's on-the-spot commands. It seems like this Ling Yi guy really isn't a simple character. This guy has ruined our plans one after another. In order to avoid trouble later, Uncle Sea, don't you think we should make the first move to gain the upper hand?" Wang Baiqiao made a sinister throat-slitting gesture. The reason why he was covered in wounds, and even had his life in danger, was because of Lin Yi. He obviously hated Lin Yi to the bone. "Is there a hole in your brain?" Boundless Sea took the opportunity to kick him in the face. "This is a great event where a pie falls from the sky. A cool phone is waiting for you. Follow, click on the official account, add friends on WeChat, and add the official account as Xiaoshuo, and immediately participate. Everyone has a prize. Immediately follow the official account of Xiaoshuo." Chapter 4427. P.S. See the exclusive story behind School Beauty's personal bodyguard and listen to your suggestions for the novel. Follow the official account, add friends on WeChat, and add the official account as Xiaoshuo, and tell me in secret. Boundless Sea coldly snorted. This type of person is definitely an important part of the Equal Heaven Escort Agency. If we go after him now, let's not even talk about whether or not we'll succeed. Even if we succeed, everyone will suspect us. Hiss. Wang Baiqiao sucked in a breath of cold air from the pain, but he was still unwilling. "But Uncle Sea, we can't just let him go like this." "Let him go?" Boundless Sea raised his eyebrows and said in an unfathomable tone, "Humph. No matter what, this person can't be underestimated. We have to investigate this person's background first. I'll leave this matter to you. Remember, don't let a third person know." "Yes, this subordinate will obey." Wang Baijiao was overjoyed and immediately accepted the order. Since Boundless Sea had given him a mission, it meant that his life was safe for now. He immediately retreated. Lingwan? Humph. No matter where you come from, now that you're here, even if you're a dragon, you'll have to coil up. Even if you're a tiger, you'll have to crouch. Boundless Sea's killing intent flashed across his face. What Boundless Sea didn't know was that while he was having Wang Baijiao investigate Lingwan, in a tavern not far from his Four Seas escort agency, the heads of the Dragon Boat escort agency were gnashing their teeth in anger at this long name. Lingwan. It's this Lingwan, the main culprit behind my son's death. If I don't cut this person into 1,000 pieces, I swear I'm not a human. In the room, a bearded man wearing a gray cloak said through gritted teeth. This person's aura was monstrous and majestic. He was the infamous leader of the Poison Eye mercenaries, Cheng Haonan. There were two other men in the room. The one on the left had thick eyebrows and a pair of leopard eyes. His fierce appearance was unforgettable. He was the head escort of the Dragon Boat escort agency, Long Kiba. The person sitting on Cheng Haonan's right had a pair of triangular yin-yang eyes. His face was a strange greenish-yellow color that made people shudder. He was the mysterious military advisor of the Poison Eye mercenary group, the #1 person under Cheng Haonan, Wu Baoyang. Ever since the Dragon Boat escort agency and the Poison Eye mercenary group had joined hands, both parties had become one. It was a name that caused others to tremble with fear, and it seemed to be on the verge of becoming the strongest power in the Verdant Arc territorial waters. Thus, the three of them naturally came together and became the top trio that controlled the fates of their subordinates. In this year's South Continent Escort Agency Grand Assembly, the Dragon Boat Escort Agency had come with great momentum. They wanted to replace the Heavens Equal Escort Agency and become one of the top 5 escort agencies in the South Continent. This was the lowest goal that the three of them had set. However, after just 2 rounds of competition, this goal had already become a joke. Due to Lin Yi's existence, the Heavens Equal Escort Agency had accumulated 300 points and occupied the top spot. Even the Four Seas Escort Agency was left far behind. As for the Dragon Boat Escort Agency, although they had joined the Poison Eye mercenary group's elite soldiers, the Dragon Boat Escort Agency was not as good as before. Their strength had indeed skyrocketed. They had obtained 90 points in the first round, so they could be regarded as quite a dark horse. Unfortunately, they were the same as the other 29 escort agencies in the second round. They had not obtained a single point. In just 2 rounds of the competition, the Heavens Equal Escort Agency had left them in the dust by 210 points. It was such a huge disparity between them. If they still wanted to replace the Heavens Equal Escort Agency, they would only be lying to themselves. The atmosphere in the room could not help but become rather heavy as they listened to Cheng Haonan's bellow. As the chief escort of the Dragon Boat Escort Agency, Long Kiba had originally been filled with ambition this time. But now that the Heavens Equal Escort Agency, or more accurately, Lin Yi, had doused him with a bucket of cold water, he obviously was not in a good mood. As for Cheng Haonan, he had already placed the blame for his son's death on Lin Yi. He obviously knew that the true culprit behind his son's death was the Divine Nun of the East Sea, one of the 3 pillars of the Morning Star Academy. However, was he bold enough to find the Divine Nun of the East Sea for revenge? Of course not. Even if Cheng Haonan was given 10 times the courage, he would never be so bold. The Poison Eye mercenaries could not even be regarded as invincible in the Verdant Arc Sea realm, and they could not even be regarded as a first-rate organization across the many seas of the South Continent. If they stood up against a colossus like the Morning Star Academy, what else would they be doing other than seeking death? By then, their only fate would be being crushed to death with a single finger. It would only take a few minutes. As a result, not only did Cheng Haonan not dare to resent the Divine Nun of the East Sea, he did not even dare to have any thoughts about Huang Xiaotao, the Divine Nun of the East Sea's direct disciple. Naturally, all of his hatred was transferred to Lin Yi. Even though Lin Yi had not personally killed Cheng Haonan, it was all because of him. So it was not an exaggeration to say that he was the main culprit. Who would Cheng Haonan kill if not him? If Lin Yi were not the honorary vice-chairman of the Hong Merchant Guild, and if he were not close to Huang Xiaotao, The divine nun of the East Sea's direct disciple, Chung Haonan probably would not have been able to hold himself back a long time ago and would have taken revenge regardless of the consequences. It was exactly because of these two sensitive identities that Chung Haonan did not dare to take action openly and could only look for opportunities in secret. However, Lin Yi had either been holed up in the Hong Merchant Guild or the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency recently. However, Lin Yi was either holed up in the Hong Chamber of Commerce or the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. Regardless of which one he was in, it was easier said than done to sneak in and kill someone. Chung Haonan wasn't someone who would swallow insults like this, but Lin Yi, his son's death, he had no choice. He'd had to endure it, even if he didn't want to. He'd been holding it in until today. Kill him. I'll definitely kill him. Chung Haonan could no longer endure it. He had a ferocious expression as if he wanted to skin someone alive. He turned to look at Wu Baoliang and said, "Military advisor, quickly think of a way to kill Ling Yi." "That's right. Ling Yi is a great threat to us. If we don't get rid of him, it will be extremely difficult for us to replace the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency." Long Kiba nodded in agreement. In just 2 rounds of the competition, Ling Yi had already helped the Equal Heaven Escort Agency obtain a total of 260 points, forcefully becoming the focus of the entire competition. From this, it could be seen how strong Ling Yi was. If he were to continue like this, who knew what kind of performance he would have in the later rounds? "Don't worry." Wu Baoliang glanced at the two of them and said with a disdainful expression, "This South Continent's Escort Agency Conference is actually a good opportunity to get rid of this person. Don't be fooled by his glory now. When he meets me, he will be dead." "Of course. How can a mere Golden Core expert be a match for you, military advisor?" Chung Haonan and Long Kiba nodded at the same time. Although they were both proud and arrogant people, they acknowledged Wu Baoliang's strength. In fact, it could even be said that they were quite fearful of him. "This conference has given us a justifiable opportunity to kill him. A great event like a pie falling from the sky. The cool phone is waiting for you. Follow /Chinese official account, add friends on WeChat, and add the official account by typing Xiaoshuo, and participate immediately. Everyone will have a prize. Follow the official account of Xiaoshuo now." To be continued. Chapter 4428. P.S. Read the exclusive story behind School Beauty's Personal Bodyguard and listen to your suggestions for the novel. Follow Chidian's official account, add friends on WeChat, and add the official account as Xiaosheo, and tell me in secret. Oh, when the time comes, even the Hong Chamber of Commerce and East Continent's Morning Star Academy won't be able to say anything. Wu Baoliang laughed coldly, then said, "The only problem is that I won't be able to meet this person in the competition. If they couldn't kill him in the competition, they would be back to their previous predicament. They didn't dare to kill him in the open, and they couldn't kill him in the dark either. That is indeed a big problem." Long Kiba frowned and said, "But there's no point in thinking about it now. We can only wait and see what the situation is like." If his Dragon Boat Escort Agency was one of the 5 major escort agencies, they might be able to use their authority as judges to play some tricks and arrange for the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency to go against his Dragon Boat Escort Agency. Unfortunately, they didn't have any authority to speak. All right then, we'll let this kid live for 2 more days. Chung Haonan was unwilling, but he had no other choice. He could only wait and see and take things one step at a time. The next day, the South Continent Escort Agency Grand Conference was held in Cold Magic Plaza. The 5 judges from the 5 major escort agencies walked up to the high platform one after another. However, this time, Qi Mingyuan was the center of attention. After all, based on the current score, the Equal of Heaven Escort Agency was ahead of everyone else. It was very likely that they would take first place in this year's competition. In comparison, the host Boundless Sea wasn't as high-spirited as he was yesterday. There was a strong sense of unwillingness hidden between his brows, but it was much more restrained than before. "Now, I will announce the 3rd round of the competition, the test of an escort's loyalty," Boundless Sea announced. Test of an escort's loyalty? Everyone was confused when they heard this, and they looked at each other in dismay. There was a lot of discussion. Many of them were familiar with the South Continent Escort Agency Grand Conference. Some of them had participated in it several times. The previous 2 rounds of the competition, whether it was the escort robbery or the dangerous sea voyage, were all new, but they were essentially old wine in a new bottle. There had been similar events in previous conferences, so they weren't too surprised. However, this test of an escort's loyalty was a completely new competition. He had never even heard of it before. In this round, you don't need to kill each other, nor do you need to take risks. What you need to do is very simple. Just nod your head. Of course, you can also choose not to nod your head, Boundless Sea continued. When he said that, everyone present was even more confused. The more he said, the more mysterious it was. I just need to nod my head? What kind of competition was this? Before I explain the rules to everyone, I would like to express my gratitude to all the major chambers of commerce who have come to watch the event on behalf of the South Continent Escort Agency. All of the merchant guilds present will contribute to the funding, and we will provide a priceless escort for the match. Boundless Sea cupped his hands towards the representatives of the merchant guilds. Escort? Everyone looked at each other thoughtfully. Combined with the name of the test of loyalty of escorts, those with a slightly faster brain could more or less guess what was going on. As we all know, many of the escorts entrusted to the escort agencies are sent to different places. In particular, the precious goods of the merchant guilds are often priceless. If the escorts have selfish motives, they might become greedy and take the goods for themselves. I'm sure everyone has heard of this sort of thing, right? Boundless Sea asked everyone. Everyone nodded their heads. In the escort agency business, the most important thing was trust. Only by gaining the public's trust could one gain a foothold. However, the southern continent sea had always been a chaotic place. There were people from all walks of life everywhere. There were naturally such people in the escort agencies. There was no lack of cases where a rat's droppings spoiled the whole pot of soup. For example, when the Heavens Equal escort agency's large escort had been robbed, the rumor circulating internally was that there had been an insider colluding with pirates. If Lenny hadn't cleared his name, perhaps he would still be carrying this groundless accusation. The human heart was unfathomable. There was no lack of black sheep everywhere. Even the Heavens Equal escort agency, one of the 5 great escort agencies, was like this. There was no need to talk about the other escort agencies. Embezzlement was nothing new. So, in order to purify the industry and set a new standard, our Southern Continent Escort Agency Conference has the responsibility and need to set up a competition to test the human heart. Boundless Sea didn't miss this opportunity to shout out the slogan. Then, he continued, in the 3rd round, each escort agency will send 10 escorts to be tested. The escorts provided by the merchant guilds will all be placed in front of them one by one. As long as they nod, they can easily take them away, free of charge. Hearing this, the crowd burst into an uproar. They were all interested. Just a nod and they could take away a priceless escort? Was there really such a good thing in the world? However, there were also people who questioned this. This so-called competition to test the human heart was actually just a show. Even if the contestants could take away the escorts for free, the various escort agencies were watching from behind. Who would dare do such a thing? If they took away the escorts, it would be the same as smearing the reputation of their own escort agency. Needless to say, the consequences would be obvious. Compared to the escorts, no matter how you looked at it, their lives were more important. They were all smart people, not idiots. Let me add one more thing. After the contestants take away the escorts, the escort agency they belong to will definitely not pursue the matter. This is the joint promise of our Southern Continent Escort Agency Conference. Anyone who dares to go against them will be our enemy, Boundless Sea said firmly. This sentence immediately dispelled everyone's doubts. With this, the contestants would have nothing to worry about. At most, they would not be able to continue working in the escort agency after they returned. However, they would not be restricted from leaving. At the very least, their personal safety would be guaranteed. With such a premise as a guarantee, the so-called test of the loyalty of the escorts this time was truly worth watching. Through this, they could more or less see how much control each agency had over the escorts under them. If the escorts were not loyal enough and did not have strong self-control, it was easy for them to give themselves away in this segment and bring shame to the agency they belonged to. Although this was the first time this competition was unique, it couldn't be denied that this sort of competition to test the human heart was very eye-catching. It should also be very practical. As for how the points are calculated, it's very simple. Every escort is worth 10 points. If all 10 escorts from an escort agency remain, then they will receive 100 points. For every escort that leaves, 10 points will be deducted. The remaining points will be the final score for this round of the competition, Boundless Sea announced in a clear voice. What a great event, like a pie falling from the sky. A cool phone is waiting for you. Click on the official account, add friends on WeChat, and add the official account by typing Xiaoshuo, and immediately participate. Everyone has a prize. Immediately follow the official account of Xiaoshuo. Chapter 44:29. Before he finished speaking, all the people in charge of the escort agencies, including Qi Wenhan, were already busy selecting their soldiers. At first glance, the difficulty of the third round was much lower than the previous 2 rounds where lives were at stake. However, in reality, it was the exact opposite. The 100 points were not easy to obtain. After all, the human heart was the most difficult thing to grasp. The slightest mistake could cause the 100 points to slip through one's fingers. Since it was a test of the human heart, if they wanted to obtain all 100 points, they had to do their homework on the selection of soldiers. Since threats could not be used, they could only carefully select the 10 most trustworthy people and reward them handsomely to ensure that nothing would go wrong. However, before they could do so, 2 people had appeared beside the people in charge of each escort agency. One was a staff member of the Grand Assembly, and the other was a supervisor from the various chambers of commerce who had nothing to do with the Grand Assembly. To ensure fairness, before the competition officially begins, no escort agency is allowed to use threats or promises of rewards to influence the escorts under their command. They must face this test with a normal heart, the 2 supervisors said in unison. Qi Wenhan was stunned when he heard that. He turned his head to look around and saw that the same 2 supervisors were standing beside each of the other escort agencies. It seemed that the Grand Assembly had already prepared for this. All right. Qi Wenhan could only nod at the 2 supervisors and swallow back the reward that was on the tip of his tongue. He could only rely on his understanding of the crowd and pick out the 10 most trustworthy escorts. Fortunately, he spent a lot of time with everyone and was more familiar with the escorts under his command. If it was just picking out 10 from the middling soldiers, he was still relatively confident. However, before Qi Wenhan could start selecting, the 2 supervisors suddenly said, in order to truly reflect the situation of each escort agency, all the contestants in this round of the competition must be chosen at random. How is this random? Qi Wenhan was instantly stunned. It's very simple. You'll provide us with a list of the escorts, and we'll remove all the heads, deputy heads, and relatives related to the heads. Then, we'll randomly pick 10 people from the remaining escorts, the 2 supervisors explained. The head of escorts, deputy head of escorts, and their relatives were closely related to the escort agency. They would not be tempted to participate in the competition. If they were allowed to participate in the competition, this competition that was designed to test their loyalty would be meaningless. It would not reflect the true situation of the escort agency. After all, usually, when there was a real escort, how many times was the escort leader personally escorting them? Ordinary escorts were the main force of escorting the goods. Only if they could withstand the test would they be able to represent an escort agency in passing the test. Apart from them, anyone else would only make the test meaningless. Qi Wenhan smiled bitterly. This kind of random selection method really didn't give him any chance at all, even though he had confidence in the escorts under his command. Although he was confident in the escorts under his command, there were so many people in the agency. Even their abilities were uneven. Young Master Qi, please give us the name list as soon as possible. Don't make things difficult for us, urged the 2 supervisors. All right, I'll give it to you right away. Qi Wenhan nodded helplessly. He could only fill in the names of the escorts under his command one by one in front of the 2 supervisors. This was the first time in history that the so-called test of loyalty among escorts was being held. He had never encountered a competition like this before. Furthermore, the rules were so well controlled that he could not think of any loopholes to exploit. He could only follow the rules obediently. After a while, a list of escorts was handed over to the two supervisors. Just as they had requested, the names on the list were all ordinary escorts. There was no head, deputy head, or relative. Even Lin Yi was not on the list because he was an honorary head. No matter how you looked at it, his status could not possibly be among the ranks of ordinary escorts. Qi Wenhan originally thought that the two of them would start randomly selecting people. However, after the two of them received the list, they took out another list from their pockets and carefully compared it one by one in front of Qi Wenhan and the others. Seeing this scene, Qi Wenhan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. He clearly saw that on the list of escorts that the other party had taken out, there was an annotation behind each person's name. It was obvious whether they were ordinary escorts or if they had special backgrounds such as the head escort or assistant escort. Qi Wenhan sucked in a breath of cold air and secretly rejoiced that he had not played any tricks just now. Otherwise, he would have been exposed on the spot. The South Continent Escort Agency Gala had always prided itself on being fair and just. Cheating during the competition had always been strictly investigated. If it was really discovered on the spot, there would be no hope of getting any points for the round. In fact, the points would be deducted, and the escort agency would be heavily punished. After the two supervisors finished comparing the names on the list and confirmed that there were no omissions, they numbered each name. At the same time, they took out a small basket from behind their backs. The basket was filled with pre-prepared numbers. Whoever was picked would be the one. This continued until the list of 10 participating escorts was complete. At the same time, the other 3 escort agencies were also experiencing the same thing. In a short period of time, the 32 escort agencies had all completed the list of participants. The third round of the escort agency loyalty competition had officially begun. Each of the 32 escort agencies sent out 10 escorts, and an entire 320 escorts formed a large circle on Devil Cold Square, whereas at the center of them was a pile of enormous treasure chests that had been prepared beforehand that were neatly piled up. The size of every single treasure chest was almost the height of a person, and even if they didn't know what was hidden within it, such a size still caused one's eyes to be extremely envious. It wasn't just the participating escorts. Even the spectators couldn't help but raise their heads in anticipation when they saw the treasure chests. Even though Boundless Sea had already said that each of these treasure chests was priceless, no one knew exactly how priceless they were. Under the gazes of tens of thousands of people, the 5 referees, led by Boundless Sea, slowly walked to the side of the treasure chests. They casually pulled out one of the treasure chests and immediately attracted everyone's attention. You're all very curious as to what's inside these treasure chests, right? I can tell you right now. What's inside are none other than spirit jades. Boundless Sea announced loudly. Spirit jades. Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard this. Even though all sorts of heavenly treasures were definitely priceless, even if they were of the same value, the impact of heavenly treasures couldn't compare to the impact of actual spirit jades. It made people's mouths go dry. Chapter 44:30. Head Escort High. How many spirit jades are in the chests? Someone in the crowd yelled, drawing a wave of laughter. However, it also piqued everyone's curiosity. Everyone wanted to know the answer to this question. Whether it was the spectators, the people in charge of the various escort agencies, or even the randomly selected participating escorts, they were all very interested in this question. Humans die for wealth, and birds die for food. As the old saying goes, there is no such thing as loyalty in this world. Loyalty only exists because there isn't enough bargaining chips for betrayal. The number of spirit jades in these treasure chests directly determined the choice of the participating escorts. If it was an inestimably astronomical number, then all 32 escorts would be wiped out. But if it was an insignificant number, then this test of people's will would be meaningless. The key to this round's competition was how to set this number. Everyone wants to know, right? That's too simple. These treasure chests all have the same amount of spirit jades. We just need to randomly pick one out and count it in front of everyone. Then we'll know." Boundless Sea laughed, then called over 10 workers from the side and ordered, in order to satisfy everyone's curiosity, "Count all the spirit jades in this treasure chest." Yes, the staff members immediately did as they were told. They surrounded the treasure chest that Boundless Sea had randomly pulled out and opened it in front of everyone. The entire crowd burst into an uproar. It was filled to the brim with spirit jades. Less than or equal to the 10 staff members began counting the spirit jades in the treasure chest at the same time. As everyone watched, they couldn't help but swallow their saliva. The test has already begun. I'm afraid this test won't be so easy to pass. Lenny couldn't help but shake his head and laugh at this scene. Counting spirit jades in front of everyone didn't seem like anything special, but the impact it had on everyone present was incomparable. It could be said to be incomparable, especially for those participating escorts. Originally, they might have been able to resist the temptation, but as time dragged on, they could only watch helplessly as the spiritual jades piled up higher and higher. This temptation was not something that ordinary people could resist. During the entire process, anyone who had the slightest bit of selfishness would eventually be convinced by the devil's incessant enticement and self-persuasion and walk towards the opposite of loyalty. As time dragged on, the chances of betrayal would increase. Brother Ling is right. If this goes on, it's hard to say how many people will be able to resist the temptation in the end. Chi Wenhan nodded with a wry smile. We lose people in every round of the competition. After participating in this year's South Continent Escort Agency Grand Gathering, who knows how many more people the agency will lose? Needless to say, in the first 2 rounds, every escort agency had put human lives on the line. But now, in the 3rd round, it seemed to be quiet. There was no danger to speak of. In fact, the number of casualties caused in the end was probably more than the previous 2 rounds combined. After all, these participating escorts, if they couldn't resist the temptation and nodded their heads, this meant that they would have to leave the escort agency in the future. For every escort agency, leaving was equivalent to death. In fact, the final result was the same. They would all be reduced in combat strength. The 10 of them took the time it took for half an incense stick to burn. Only then did he finally finish counting all the spirit jades in the treasure chest. Adding them up, there were exactly 50,000 spirit jades. For most of the people present, this was an astronomical figure. They might not be able to save up such a huge amount of wealth, even if they worked hard for decades. Many people's mouths were already dry from watching. They even wished they could be one of the participating escorts, casually nodding their heads and taking away a whole 50,000 spirit jades. Moreover, there was also the promise of the 5 major escort agencies that they wouldn't have to bear any risks. Where else in the world could they find such a good deal? It's actually 50,000 spirit jades. Chi Wenhan was instantly stunned. The expressions of the other escorts at the side were more or less subtle. In the previous 2 rounds of the competition, they had to fight with their lives on the line. The best outcome for the participants was that even if they were lucky enough not to die, they would at least be half crippled. Even so, the reward offered by Chi Wenhan was only 50,000 spirit jades. But now, with the same amount of 50,000 spirit jades, the participating escorts didn't have to do anything and didn't have to bear any risks. All they had to do was nod their heads, and they could easily get what they wanted. It would be strange if they weren't tempted by this. Even the other escorts on the field felt a bit unbalanced. A meat pie had fallen from the sky. Why couldn't such a good thing happen to them? All right, everyone knows what they need to know. Now, it's up to the participating escorts to make their own choices. Boundless Sea faced the crowd and loudly announced, "Listen to my command. Those participating escorts who want to take this 50,000 spirit jades and live happily ever after, take 3 steps forward. Those participating escorts who don't want this 50,000 spirit jades and continue to be loyal to the escort agency, take 3 steps back. Begin." As soon as he finished speaking, the atmosphere suddenly became tense. Everyone's gazes swept back and forth between the 320 escorts. No matter who made the slightest movement, they would immediately become the center of attention. At this moment, the ones who felt the most pressure weren't the participating escorts on the field, but Qi Wenhan and the other representatives of the various escort agencies. After all, the participating escorts faced 50,000 spirit jades. Whether they took it or not, they only needed to consider their own gains and losses. They only needed to clearly weigh whether or not this 50,000 spirit jades was worth betraying the escort agency, and then make a decision. However, Qi Wenhan and the other representatives of the escort agencies had to consider the gains and losses of the entire escort agency. If they performed well in this round and only a few escorts left, that would be fine. But if a large number of escorts left, it would be troublesome. When that time came, the danger they would face wouldn't be as simple as losing members in battle. The more thorny problem was that the entire escort agency's reputation would take a huge hit. Reputation was the foundation of an escort agency's survival. This included the 5 great escort agencies with the most solid foundations. For any escort agency, if they lost the public's trust, it would be a disaster. Qi Wenhan stared closely at the movements of the participating escorts, especially the 10 from his own escort agency. He was so nervous that cold sweat dripped down his forehead. Based on his understanding of these 10 people, the majority of them shouldn't be much of a problem. But the remaining few, it was hard to say. After all, the temptation of 50,000 spirit jades couldn't be underestimated. Finally, under everyone's attention, someone made the first choice. It was a participating escort from a small escort agency. He took 3 steps forward. "Okay, you can go." Boundless Sea immediately had a staff member hand over a treasure chest to this person. Chapter 44:31. This person opened the treasure chest and counted the spirit jades. He could no longer contain his ecstasy. He did not even look at his former escort agency as he happily carried the treasure chest away. The crowd at the side was so envious that they drooled. The ones who were even more moved were the participating escorts. Before this, everyone was still worried about their pride and was too embarrassed to take the lead. But now that someone had broken the stalemate, the pressure was much less. Almost at the same time, a large group of people hurriedly took 3 steps forward, each of them looking at the treasure chests anxiously. It was as if they were afraid that they would fall behind, and there would not be enough treasure chests for so many people to share. Such eagerness immediately caused an uproar. Out of the 32 escort agencies, several of them had been completely wiped out. 10 of their escorts had all defected. The expressions of the people in charge of these agencies were as pale as dead ashes, as if their parents had died. They had been completely wiped out. This had completely destroyed the reputation that these agencies had built up with so much difficulty. The people in charge of the various chambers of commerce who were watching from the side all put these escort agencies on their blacklists. No matter what had happened in the past, at least from now on, they would never dare to work with these escort agencies again. In a short period of time, more than half of the 320 participating escorts had left. Even those that remained were not necessarily completely loyal. Many of them were still hesitant between loyalty and 50,000 spirit jades. It was just that they could not make a decision at this moment. After a while, another group of people finally took a step forward after a period of struggle. These 3 bastards. Qi Wenhan looked at the 3 escorts from his agency. When he saw their shameless behavior as they carried the treasure chests, he immediately gritted his teeth in anger. His expression was extremely ugly, and he wanted nothing more than to rush forward and stomp these ungrateful bastards to death. All this time, Qi Wenhan had been in charge as the young master of the escort agency. He had always treated the escorts under his command very well, especially during the South Continent Escort Agency's Grand Festival. The bounty offered by the Heavens Equal Escort Agency was the highest among all the escorts. Even the Four Seas Escort Agency did not offer such a high bounty. Even so, 3 of their escorts had escaped. The hardest thing to control in the world was the human heart. This saying was not false at all. There were people who were extremely righteous, but there were also people who were ungrateful. In comparison, the latter often outnumbered the former. Brother Qi, you don't have to be like this. It's not a good thing for them to leave at this time anyway. It's not necessarily a bad thing for the escort agency if the three of them leave. If they stay here, who knows what kind of trouble they'll cause in the future. Just take it easy, comforted Lin Yi. Brother Ling, you're right. None of those who left are good people. However, I still can't swallow this resentment. Chi Wenhan was still indignant, but Boundless Sea had already announced that the escort agency could not settle accounts with the participants. No matter how furious he was, he didn't dare to do anything to these three people. Linny smiled and didn't say anything else, at least from the looks of things. At least for now, he had to swallow this resentment even if he couldn't, unless he found another way to vent it. In the end, the third round of the escort agency's loyalty test came to an end. 32 escort agencies, 320 participating escorts. They either left with 50,000 spirit jades or stayed behind with pure sincerity. All of them had made their own choices. 3 people from the Heavens Equal Escort Agency left, leaving behind 7 people. In the end, they had obtained 70 points. Compared to the smaller escort agencies that had easily been wiped out, this result was much better. It wasn't perfect, but it was passable. However, it wasn't just Chi Wenhan. Even Qi Mingyuan's expression had become increasingly gloomy and unsightly. Of the 5 great escort agency, none of the other 4 had left. All of them had a perfect performance of 100 points. Only the Heavens Equal Escort Agency had only obtained 70 points. Faced with such an awkward situation, how could the father and son pair be happy? In the end, the 5 Great Escort Agency was still the 5 Great Escort Agency. Their foundations were not to be underestimated. The escorts under their command were loyal to them, and they had a strong sense of belonging to them. It wasn't something that any of the second-rate escort agencies present could compare to. In this regard, even the newly promoted Heavens Equal Escort Agency was far from being good enough. The biggest difference between a traditional powerhouse and a nouveau riche is their foundation. As long as their foundation is there, a traditional powerhouse can stand tall forever. But for a nouveau riche, it's hard to say. Boundless Sea smiled meaningfully. The heads of the other 5 Great Escort Agency also smiled knowingly when they heard this. Their gazes filled with ridicule fell on Qi Mingyuan. In the previous competition, the Heavens Equal Escort Agency had been in the limelight, trampling all of the traditional powerhouses under their feet. They had been suppressing their anger the entire time, but now they had finally regained some face. Being ridiculed to his face like this, Qi Mingyuan's face immediately turned ashen, but he couldn't say anything. After all, it was a fact that the Heavens Equal Escort Agency's foundation wasn't strong enough. If they offended the other 4 traditional powerhouses just for the sake of bragging, then the gains wouldn't make up for the losses. On the other side, Chi Wenhan had given each of the escorts who had chosen to stay a bear hug. However, he discovered that everyone had different expressions on their faces. Looking at the 3 fellows not far away who had happily received 50,000 spirit jades, their gazes were filled with regret, unwillingness, and even regret. I hereby announce that for the 7 escorts who chose to stay, in order to repay your loyalty to the agency, each of you will receive 50,000 spirit jades as a reward. Chi Wenhan suddenly announced in a loud voice. At the same time, he glanced at the 3 men with a cold smile. Our Heavens Equal Escort Agency will never mistreat our own people. Every contribution you make will ultimately be rewarded handsomely. As soon as he finished speaking, the crowd around him couldn't help but burst into an uproar. The 7 escorts, who had originally been feeling a little conflicted, were instantly overjoyed and cheered loudly. When the 3 escorts who had received 50,000 spirit jades heard Chi Wenhan's words, they were immediately dumbfounded. Each of them wanted to slap their own mouths. Even their intestines were about to turn green with regret. Damn it, if they had known that they would receive such a reward by staying, why would they have taken those 3 steps forward? Although the Great Assembly had strictly stipulated that escort agencies couldn't settle scores after the competition, after receiving the 50,000 spirit jades, they would definitely not be able to continue working as an escort agency anymore. They would carry the stain of ingratitude. Not only would the Heavens Equal Escort Agency not want them, but all the other escort agencies would also not want them. In fact, They would even lose their footing in the entire South Continent Sea. Chaos was chaos, but ingrates would never be able to raise their heads no matter where they went. They would eventually be spurned by others. To be continued. Chapter 44:32. They had paid such a huge price in exchange for 50,000 spirit jades, but in the blink of an eye, those who had chosen to stay could also receive 50,000 spirit jades, and they didn't even have to pay anything. Instead, they were treated like heroes. The three felt that it was unfair. However, it was too late for regrets. They had chosen their own path. Even if they had to kneel, they could only continue down this path. Brilliant. Lin Yi couldn't help but give Chi Wonhan a thumbs up as he watched all of this. This young master was quite the charismatic one. Even though he had paid a total of 350,000 spirit jades for a single sentence, he could tell from the expressions of the escorts and the shocked bystanders that this 350,000 spirit jades had not been spent in vain. From now on, the escorts under his command would have more trust in the agency, and they would be even more loyal. If this matter were to spread, the outside world would know that the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency treated its subordinates generously. What was there to worry about entrusting the goods to an escort agency like this? With 350,000 spirit jades, he could buy back the loyalty of the escorts, buy back the reputation of the agency, and erase the shadow of this round's defeat. No matter how you looked at it, this kind of transaction wasn't a loss. Perhaps Chi Wonhan had only said these words out of a moment of anger, but in the future, he would realize how wise and far-sighted his decision today was. From afar, Chi Mingyuan saw this scene. Not only did he not blame Chi Wonhan for acting on his own, he even let out a hearty laugh. And the expressions of Boundless Sea and the others beside him all changed. The pride they had felt when they had just gotten back at Chi Wonhan instantly disappeared. 3 rounds of the competition had ended. Even though the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency had suffered a small loss, it didn't affect the overall situation. They still had 370 points and occupied the top spot. The 4 Seas Escort Agency had 270 points and was still in second place. As for the other escort agencies, they were even less of a threat to the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. In the 4th round, the event is to hide the goods in the midst of danger. As the saying goes, if you often walk by the river, you can't avoid getting your shoes wet. Along the way, you will always encounter all sorts of unexpected dangers. But no matter what the situation is, protecting the escorted goods is the #1 priority. When facing powerful bandits, if you know that you can't fight them head-on, then the first thing to do is to hide the valuable escorted goods so that they don't find them. This is a basic skill that every escort should have, Boundless Sea said clearly. Everyone had different reactions when they heard this. Some nodded. Some shook their heads. It wasn't that they objected to hiding their escorts in times of danger, but it was easy to learn and hard to master. Most of the time, there was no point in hiding. Who doesn't know how to hide things? Even a 3-year-old child would not be a problem, but the problem was that after the item was hidden, it could be hidden by a gold core stage expert, or even a nascent soul stage expert. How many were there? The rules for this round of the competition are that each escort agency must send out 1 participant. They'll each find a sealed area and use the surrounding environment to hide the items. Then, the 5 great escort companies and the other merchant guilds will form a bandit group to search for the items. If they succeed, then it's your win, Boundless Sea continued to announce. You've successfully hidden him? No matter how well you hide him, he'll still be found eventually. What counts as a successful hiding? Someone asked loudly. It's very simple. It depends on when the items are found. If you can't even last for the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, then it means that you failed to hide him, and you won't get any points. If you can last for 1 stick of incense, you get 50 points. If you can last for 2 sticks of incense, you get 70 points. If you can last for 3 sticks of incense, you get 100 points. If you can last for 3 sticks of incense, you get 100 points. If you can last for this round of the competition, you get 100 points. Boundless Sea explained to everyone. Hearing this, everyone understood. This sort of score was reasonable. A full score of 100 points wasn't high, but there really wasn't any danger in this round of the competition. so setting the score too high wasn't too good. Let me add one more thing. Apart from the regular matches, there's also a special challenge round. Any escort agency, after holding on for 3 incense sticks and obtaining 100 points, can accept another challenge if they want to obtain more points. That is, they can accept bets from any other escort agency. Boundless Sea suddenly said in a clear voice. Bets? Everyone was surprised. Their interest was immediately piqued. If there was a bet, then it must be very exciting. That's right. Both sides will each put up 100 points. The time limit is 2 sticks of incense. If the escort is found, the 100 points the escort agency has previously earned will go to the challenger. On the other hand, if the escort agency isn't found, then the escort agency will receive an additional 100 points from the challenger. In other words, you can get a total of 200 points in this round. Boundless Sea explained patiently. At this moment, the eyes of the escort agencies lit up. Without a doubt, this last challenge rule was the key to this round of the competition. After the first 3 rounds of the competition, the escort agencies, especially the leading Heaven's Equal escort agency, had opened up a large gap in points between them. If they didn't have this additional challenge and continued on as usual, it would be very difficult to close the gap before the final battle. But this time, everyone saw hope. They could get 200 points in one go. This meant that as long as they performed well, they could even surpass the Heaven's Equal escort agency, let alone close the gap. Of course, the prerequisite was that the escort agency's hidden escort agency could last for 3 sticks of incense. Otherwise, they wouldn't even have the right to be challenged, let alone get 200 points. Alright, that's the rules for this round of the competition. Escort agencies can begin choosing their participants. Prepare to begin, Boundless Sea announced. As soon as he finished speaking, the escort agencies, including Chi Won Han, once again found themselves in a difficult situation. Although this round of the competition wasn't as dangerous as the previous 2 rounds, and it wasn't as challenging as the 3rd round, it was still very difficult to choose a suitable candidate. Is there anyone willing to volunteer? Chi Won Han furrowed his brow. His gaze swept across the faces of the escorts, but he didn't immediately mention the reward like before. After all, there was no danger to speak of in this competition, and there was no need for any rewards. Those who had the ability would naturally participate. Those who didn't have the ability, no matter how many rewards they offered, it would be pointless. They couldn't be like the previous 2 rounds, where they directly announced that as long as a participant went up, they would be rewarded with 50,000 spirit jades, regardless of whether they won or lost. That was called taking responsibility and boldness, and it would make everyone more loyal and willing. Chapter 44:33. However, if they continued to do so, it would no longer be considered as boosting morale. It would be a classic example of a fool with too many spiritual jades. At most, they would be judged as a prodigal son of the Chi family. The group of escorts looked at each other. None of them dared to step forward. It was not entirely because of the lack of rewards, but because they were afraid of embarrassing the agency. Hiding the escorts, especially when they had to accept the test of the bandit group, was extremely difficult. If they did not have high attainments in this area and did not have the skills, it would be wishful thinking to even hold out for 1 incense stick's time, let alone 3 incense sticks' time. When the time came, the participating escorts would not only fail to make a contribution, but would also be embarrassed. This was not only a matter of losing face, but it would also affect their status in the agency in the future. Without sufficient confidence, who would dare to take the risk? How about this? As long as the person successfully hides the darts and holds out for 1 incense stick's time, the agency will reward him with 50,000 spiritual jades. Chi Won Han had no choice but to offer the reward of 50,000 spiritual jades as usual. Furthermore, he only requested for 1 incense stick's time. This was the bottom line and could not be considered too high. However, even so, the group of escorts still looked at each other. Still, none of them dared to step forward. It was not that they did not want the 50,000 spiritual jades. In fact, they were willing to sacrifice their lives for the 50,000 spiritual jades. However, The problem was that hiding darts was not something that could be achieved by risking one's life. It depended on skills, W less than or equal to WW. Without the skills, no matter how high one's awareness was, no matter how hard one tried, it would all be in vain. If you can hold out for more than one incense stick's time, I will add another 30,000 spiritual jades for every incense stick's time. Qi Wenhan could not help but feel anxious. No matter what, no one could step forward. Everyone's breathing became heavier. According to this, if one could hold out for one incense stick's time, the reward would be 110,000 spiritual jades. This was an astronomical figure. However, while everyone was drooling, no one dared to step forward. In this round of hiding darts, there would always be a brave man with a high reward. This time-tested strategy had suddenly lost its effectiveness. It could not be helped. No matter how tempting the reward was, if one could not even hold out for one incense stick's time, what was the point of stepping forward? Wouldn't that be a disgrace? This time, Qi Wenhan was completely helpless. He could only bite the bullet and do it himself. However, although he was the young master of an escort agency, he didn't have much experience in escorting goods, nor did he have any talent for hiding things. He really didn't know what he could hide in the end. Qi Wenhan felt that if he were to fight, there was at least an 80% chance that he wouldn't even be able to last for the time it took for a stick of incense to burn. He could only drop a big duck egg. Why don't I give it a try? Linny suddenly spoke up. Brother Ling, are you confident? Qi Wenhan's spirits were immediately lifted, as if he had grasped at the last life-saving straw. Everyone else's gaze also fell on Lin Yi. It should be okay. Lin Yi smiled faintly. That's great. We're on the same side, so I won't stand on ceremony with you. I'll leave this round of competition to you, Brother Ling. Qi Wenhan was overjoyed and made his decision without hesitation. Other than feeling surprised, the others didn't have any doubts. After all, Lin Yi's amazing performance in the first 2 rounds was clear for all to see. This honorary head of escorts was indeed very capable, and they couldn't help but be impressed. Very soon, the 32 escort agencies handed in the list of participants, and the 4th round of the Hidden Darts competition officially began. The venue for this round of competition was not Magic Long Square, but a seaside filled with reefs. 32 sailboats were lined up in a row not far from the land. There were all kinds of boat types, but they were all used by the major escort agencies when escorting goods. Without a doubt, these sailboats were the hiding spots for this round of competition. After all, most of the robbers in the South Continent's waters were pirates, and the dangers encountered when escorting goods were often at sea. This setup could maximize the authenticity of the scene and increase the credibility and practicality of this round's Hidden Darts competition. Each of the 32 sailboats had a number on it. The contestants drew lots to determine their respective competition venues. Then, the competition officially began. Lin Yi drew lot number 30, which was a small cargo ship. Looking at this lot, Qi Wenhan and the others couldn't help but feel their hearts sink. The smaller the ship, the fewer places it could hide the escorts, and the easier it would be for the robbers to find them. In other words, the difficulty would be higher than those who drew large ships. However, since it was in front of everyone, and all the participants drew lots together, unless someone was caught cheating on the spot, there was nothing to complain about. They could only blame their own bad luck. Don't worry, Brother Ling. Anyway, we have a huge advantage now. Even if we don't get any points in this round, it's fine. We can just fight hard later, Qi Wenhan comforted him. Of course, these words were self-deception. The Four Seas escort agency was behind them, and before the dust settled, no matter how big their advantage was, it was just fleeting clouds. He was purely comforting Lin Yi. I know. Lin Yi chuckled, and then took the small treasure chest from the staff member's hands. He walked towards ship number 30, and at the same time, the participants from the other escort agencies also took their places on the ships they drew. I'll say it again. I'll only give you the time it takes to hide the escorts. Remember, this is just a normal short incense stick, not the long incense stick from before, so it's best if you move quickly. Once the time is up, I will call out your names. Those who are late will be considered to have failed to hide the escorts, and their points for this round will be 0. Also, this is a hidden escorts competition, not a throwing competition. If someone tries to be clever and throws the escorts into the sea, they will also be considered to have failed to hide the escorts. Do you all understand? Boundless Sea swept his gaze over everyone, and then ordered, light the incense sticks, drop the curtains, activate the formation. As soon as he finished speaking, a staff member immediately lit a short incense stick in front of everyone. Thick, pitch-black curtains rose from the shore, covering all 32 ships and forming 32 hidden spaces. At the same time, a huge formation rippled out from the shore. Everyone felt their vision blur, and then everything turned dark. Let alone the 32 ships, even the black curtains couldn't be seen clearly. Even their divine senses couldn't sense it. In reality, this wasn't some sort of profound formation. It was just an ordinary smokescreen. If it was any other place, a slightly stronger expert would be able to easily pass through the formation, but this place was different. Right now, the sea fog was at its thickest. Chapter 44:34. The sea fog could greatly restrict a cultivator's senses, even blocking their divine sense. Now that it was combined with diversionary tactics and the black screen, the effect was even more unbreakable. As a result, the 32 ships in the sea were all sealed off. The competitors could hide their items without worrying about being spied on by outsiders. This was the only way to ensure the fairness of the competition. The time it took for a stick of incense to burn wasn't long, but it quickly passed. The 32 competitors arrived in front of Boundless Sea and stood in line. Very good. Everyone's very punctual. Boundless Sea smiled after calling out names. He turned his head and said to the people behind him, "Bandit bosses, let's begin." Everyone roared with laughter. The bandit group, formed by the 5 escort agencies and the various merchant guilds, led by Boundless Sea, grandiosely walked toward the first ship. Seeing this, Chi Wenhan's mouth couldn't help but twitch. It was clear that the bandit group would search from the first ship down. In other words, their ship, number 30, would be the third to last ship. This didn't seem like a big deal at first glance. It was just that they were a bit further back in the order. But in reality, the lower the order, the more disadvantageous it was. This was because the bandits were also searching for escorts and ships. Even though each ship was of a different model, the overall layout was almost the same. Every time the bandits searched a ship, their proficiency would increase by a notch. After practicing on the first 29 ships, by the time they searched the 30th ship, they already had a clear idea of the places on the ship where the escorts could be hidden. If they hid in similar places, it would take them 30 minutes to find the escorts. But when they got to the end, they found the escorts. But at the end, they might find them in an instant. Because of his miraculous performance in the first 2 rounds, Chi Wenhan had high hopes for Lin Yi. But after seeing this scene, his heart immediately turned cold. If we really lose this round, we can only blame our luck. Chi Wenhan smiled bitterly at Lin Yi. There was nothing he could do. Who told him to draw number 30? That might not be true. The greatest trick to hiding items isn't in coincidence, but in surprise. As long as it can be unexpected. No matter how skilled the person you find is, it's useless. Lin Yi smiled faintly. Oh. Seeing that Lin Yi was so confident, Chi Wenhan could not help but feel energized. Lowering his voice, he asked, "Brother Ling, where are you hiding that you are so confident?" "Brother Chi, are you sure you want to listen?" Lin Yi smiled and looked around meaningfully. Forget it. Let's talk about it later." Only then did Chi Wenhan realize that there were so many people present. Even if he spoke softly, he would still be heard by others. In his eyes, with such a small boat in the back of the queue, no matter how well they hid the escorted goods, they would be able to find them in less than an incense stick's worth of time. After practicing with the previous 29 escort agencies, the bandits could be considered half an expert at finding escorted goods. As soon as they boarded the boat, they ran to every nook and cranny where the escorted goods could be hidden. Everyone had a clear division of labor, and they were far more familiar with the task than they had been at the start. Seeing this, Chi Mingyuan couldn't help but feel apprehensive. He was obviously just pretending and wouldn't seriously look for the escorted goods. But Boundless Sea and his group were so professional, and the boat was so small. Let alone him, even if they lost 10 people, the remaining people would still be able to easily find the escorted goods. However, after everyone searched the boat from top to bottom, they couldn't find the escorted goods or the treasure chest. Don't tell me that guy also hid in the reef? Everyone couldn't help but look at each other. Even though this idea was strange, if the Four Seas Escort Agency could think of it, then the people from the Heavens Equal Escort Agency could naturally think of it as well. It's just a mechanically copied method. It's not presentable. Boundless Sea coldly harumphed. He suddenly sent out a powerful wave of chi, forcefully shaving off half of the surrounding reef. This way, it was clear whether or not there was a hole in the reef. No matter how they hid it, it would be useless. Chapter 44:35. Seeing this, Qi Mingyuan's expression darkened. This was the disadvantage of being at the bottom of the rankings. As long as there was a possibility, everyone could easily eliminate it. No matter how good their technique was, it was pointless. Everyone looked over and carefully checked every rock. They didn't find any escorts, nor did they find any signs of being dug. Qi Mingyuan let out a sigh of relief. Nothing? Boundless Sea couldn't help but frown. Everyone else looked at each other and said suspiciously, "Does that mean it's still hidden on the ship?" However, it was such a small ship. Everyone had already searched every possible place. They had already fallen into the habit of thinking, even if they searched again, they might not be able to find it. Seeing this, Qi Mingyuan was amused. This time, their disadvantage had turned into an advantage. After practicing on the previous 29 ships, everyone had unconsciously formed a habit of thinking, which became the best smokescreen. If we can't find it like this, then let's change the method. We'll dismantle the ship and search bit by bit. Boundless Sea suddenly said, dismantle it? Everyone was shocked. Everyone knew that once the ship was dismantled, nothing could be hidden. If they really did that, no one would be able to last for more than an incense stick of time. Head Escort C, you're so blatantly targeting our Heavens Equal Escort Agency. Are you afraid that we'll get a higher score? If word of this got out, it wouldn't be good, would it? W less than or equal to WW. Qi Mingyuan wasn't done being happy yet. When he heard this, he immediately snorted coldly with an unfriendly expression. Hearing this, the onlookers couldn't help but come to a realization. They all looked like they were watching a good show. So this was a personal grudge. Qi Mingyuan had just ruined their Four Seas Escort Agency's business. Boundless Sea clearly wanted to use this opportunity to get back at him. Head Escort Qi, your words are too harsh. I swear to God, as the judge, everything I do is for the sake of fairness. Everything I think and do is for the sake of making the competition more fair and just. How could I be targeting your Equal Heaven Escort Agency? Boundless Sea sneered in response. If that's the case, then I was wrong. I apologize to you, Chief Escort High. However, let me ask you one thing. When it's my Equal Heaven Escort Agency's turn, you're already busy dismantling the ship. Is that appropriate? Qi Mingyuan asked in a tone that was neither servile nor overbearing. What's wrong with that? Have you forgotten, Chief Escort Qi? We're playing the role of robbers right now. Is it strange for the robbers to tear down the boat in anger? Not only did Boundless Sea not seem to be in the wrong, he even argued. Qi Mingyuan didn't react for a while and was choked by him. It was not uncommon for the robbers to destroy the ship after the robbery. Many of them even poured oil on it and burned it with fire in order to destroy the corpses and evidence. Head Escort Qi, if you still have any objections, I'll let you know. That's fine too. Us 5 referees might as well raise our hands to vote. The minority obeys the majority. That way, there shouldn't be anything to say, right? Boundless Sea pretended to be magnanimous. Then, he turned to the other judges and said, "Can I trouble all of you to make a statement? Do you want to dismantle this boat?" Dismantle it. Since we're robbers, how could we not dismantle it? If it wasn't for Chief Escort High's reminder, us referees would have been accused of dereliction of duty. Zhao Bufan and the other two said in unison. In any case, their 3 escort agencies were the same as the 4 Seas escort agency. It had already been their turn. Of the 5 great escort agencies, only the Heavens Equal escort agency was left. From their standpoint, it would be best if the Heavens Equal escort agency didn't get a single cent. They were all jealous. Okay, then when we dismantle it, open your eyes wide and watch carefully. Otherwise, our Heavens Equal escort agency will be accused of breaking the rules, Qi Mingyuan said coldly as he looked at everyone. Now that things had reached this point, there was nothing he could do. He couldn't shed all pretense of cordiality with these people. If that happened, the Heavens Equal escort agency would no longer have a foothold in the southern continent seas. Even if he couldn't endure this, he had to endure it until the day came when he could no longer endure it. Chief Escort Qi, don't worry. The reason we're standing here is to ensure that the competition is fair and just. We won't let your Heavens Equal escort agency suffer a loss for no reason. Boundless Sea and Zhao Bufan looked at each other and smiled. With Boundless Sea's orders, everyone disembarked from the boat and immediately began dismantling it. With their strength, let alone a small cargo ship, even a large sailboat could be easily dismantled. Of course, treasured ships were an exception. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, a powerful genuine chi enveloped the entire small cargo ship and lifted it into the sky. Then, it shattered into pieces in mid-air. It was so smashed that not even a meter of wood was left, let alone anything else. Everyone's eyes were glued to the pieces falling from the sky. Because the escorts and treasure chests were specially made, they were much sturdier than normal wood. That wave of chi had also deliberately controlled its strength, so it wouldn't damage the escorts. With their outstanding eyesight, they should have been able to see it easily. Nothing. Everyone was dumbfounded. Boundless Sea was dumbfounded. Even Qi Mingyuan, who thought it was over, was dumbfounded. There's nothing in the reef, and there's nothing on the boat. The result is obvious. This punk probably threw the escorts into the sea. Boundless Sea reacted and sneered. He turned around and left. Zhao Bufan and the others looked at each other and followed Boundless Sea. Only Qi Mingyuan, who was left behind, was still confused. Throwing the escorts into the sea was considered a failure. From what he knew, Lin Yi wasn't such an irresponsible person. I hereby announce that Heaven's Equal escort agency has thrown the escorts into the sea, which is a violation of the competition rules. As a result, there will be no points for this round, Boundless Sea announced to everyone. The crowd went into an uproar. Qi Wenhan and the others, who had been waiting anxiously, all looked as if they had seen a ghost. Thrown into the sea? How is that possible? Wait a moment. Isn't Chief Escort Hai's conclusion a bit too arbitrary? Under everyone's gaze, Lin Yi slowly walked in front of Boundless Sea and the others. Your Heavens Equal escort agency's Ling Yi? Boundless Sea sized up Lin Yi from the corner of his eyes. If there was no one around, with his ruthlessness, he might have directly attacked and killed this piece of trash who had ruined his plans. That's right. Dare I ask, Chief Escort Hai, you just said that I threw the escorts into the sea. Do you have any proof? Lin Yi's lips curved in a playful smile. With so many witnesses, isn't that proof? You don't think that I, as a referee, would deliberately fabricate a crime to slander a nobody like you, do you? Boundless Sea looked at him with disdain. Chapter 44-36. The onlookers laughed. Even though Ling Yi was in the limelight in the second round, he was just a nobody compared to the big shots of the escort agency. Haha, that's hard to say. After all, it's hard to tell what's in a person's heart. What do you think, Chief Escort Hai? Lin Yi smiled nonchalantly. Since you're so sure that I threw the package into the sea, why don't we just fish it out from the sea and show it to everyone? That's the real evidence. The water isn't deep anyways. It should be quick to search for it, right? Okay, since you've brought it up yourself, then I'll let you die knowing. Boundless Sea smiled coldly and nodded. This request was reasonable, and he couldn't refute it. However, he didn't feel like there was a need to. In such a small, enclosed space, the only places to hide the package were on the boat or on the reef. Now that those two had been eliminated, the package couldn't be in the sea. Could it be in the sky? With a command, the four workers jumped into the sea and started fishing. Because of the black screen, even if Linny threw it, he could only throw it in his own area. This small area could be easily measured with their feet. It was too easy. Boundless Sea stared at Lin Yi with a cold smile, waiting for the four's good news. After the time it took for a stick of incense to burn, the four returned. What do you think? You should give up now, right? Boundless Sea was so confident that he didn't even look at the four. He smirked at Lin Yi. Chief Escort High, before you say that, why don't you ask them what they got? Linny looked at him as if he were an idiot. HM? How is that possible? Boundless Sea turned his head. Only then did he realize that the four were empty-handed. They were helplessly shrugging at him. They didn't find the package they had expected. You keep saying that I threw the package into the sea, but now I've searched the entire seabed. We've stepped all over the seabed, but what's the result? Lin Yi's expression was indifferent. What do you say, Chief Escort High? That's right. Since the match was fair and we didn't break any rules, Chief Escort High, you should at least give us an explanation, right? Otherwise, today's matter won't be easy to resolve. Qi Mingyuan and Qi Wanhan, father and son, followed suit. Everyone's gazes were filled with playfulness. Even Zhao Bufan and the others moved to the side without a trace. They were just throwing stones at a person when he was down. The mastermind was Boundless Sea. The one who was now in trouble was naturally Boundless Sea. In this highly anticipated event of the South Continent's escort agencies, if they were to be accused of abusing their power to avenge a personal grudge, even if it was a traditional wealthy family like the Four Seas Escort Agency, his reputation would also suffer a great loss, and he might even lose his position as the overlord of the South Continent Escort Agency. The consequences would be unimaginable. Explanation? What explanation do you want? Boundless Sea had no intention of lowering his head. Now that things had come to this, he could only stiffen his neck and continue. If he lowered his head now, then he would be the one to be mocked. Chief Escort High, you're a reputable figure. You can't act shamelessly in front of everyone, can you? Qi Mingyuan was so angry that he laughed and said, Let me ask you, did you throw the escort into the sea? No, Boundless Sea admitted on the spot. After all, he couldn't act shamelessly even if he wanted to. Otherwise, the other side could just fish out the evidence and shut him up. However, he didn't give up. He forced a cold smile and said, However, just because you didn't throw the escort into the sea doesn't mean you didn't break the rules, right? Everyone has seen what it means to twist words and force logic. Qi Mingyuan finally couldn't hold back his anger. Even though he didn't curse out loud, he shed all pretense of cordiality on the spot. He pointed at Boundless Sea and shouted, If that's the case, then Chief Escort High, why don't you tell us how we broke the rules? Let everyone be the judge. Seeing this, everyone looked like they were waiting for a good show. From the looks of it, the Heavens Equal Escort Agency was going to challenge the Four Seas Escort Agency. A big fight was about to take place. You're saying I'm twisting words and forcing logic? Boundless Sea's expression instantly darkened. He laughed coldly and said, In this entire venue, there are only 3 places that can hide the escort: the boat, the reef, and the sea. Right now, none of these 3 places can have the escort. I can only suspect that this Ling Yi of your escort agency didn't hide the escort at all. Instead, he directly destroyed the escort into powder. When Zhao Bufan and the others heard this, they couldn't help but nod their heads. This was really possible. If the escort wasn't destroyed, it couldn't have disappeared into thin air, right? Humph, this is a hidden escort competition, not a destroyed escort competition. If this isn't breaking the rules, then what is? Boundless Sea said confidently and proudly. Qi Mingyuan and Qi Wanhan turned their heads to look at Lin Yi. This time, they weren't sure. Even though they believed that Lin Yi wouldn't do such a thing, what Boundless Sea said wasn't wrong. It couldn't have disappeared into thin air, right? Well said, but Boss High, if I were to take out the package, would you have to swallow your words? Lin Yi said faintly, unhurriedly, Humph, if you take it out, not only will I swallow my words, I'll also slap myself on the face. Boundless Sea laughed loudly. He had the character of an ambitious and ruthless person who dared to take responsibility for his actions. Haha. Linny looked at him mockingly. In front of everyone, he turned his head and walked into the black-covered Area 30. Before anyone could react, he had already come out, but with an escort treasure chest in his hands. How is this possible? Boundless Sea was completely dumbfounded. As the overlord of the Southern Continent escort agency industry, he naturally wasn't an idiot. But now, he suddenly felt like his brain wasn't enough to process this. Not only Boundless Sea, but Zhao Bufan and the others also looked like they had seen a ghost. How the F***CK did this happen? What did you say just now, Chief Escort High? Chi Mingyuan didn't miss the opportunity to mock him. At the same time, he gave a thumbs up to Lin Yi. Even though he didn't know how he did it, his honorary Chief Escort High was indeed an expert. He could casually toy with Boundless Sea and the others in the palm of his hand. He couldn't help but admire him. Everyone looked at Boundless Sea in unison, as if they were watching a good show. They wanted to see if this head escort Sea would go back on his word. Slap. Slap. In front of everyone, Boundless Sea didn't say anything else and slapped himself twice. Only then did he say, "Sorry, I made a mistake just now. Are you guys satisfied now?" Seeing the bright red handprints on both sides of his cheeks, Lin Yi and Chi Mingyuan looked at each other. They couldn't help but think to themselves, this guy really can be considered an ambitious and ruthless person. Slapping himself in front of so many people wasn't something a normal person could do. But this way, the situation that had been extremely advantageous to them had been resolved by the other side's 2 slaps. To be continued. Chapter 44-37. If they didn't let it go, it would seem like they weren't being generous enough. Public opinion would shift towards the other side. Okay, since Head Escort High says so, then we won't say anything else. However, it's been a full 3 joss sticks worth of time. We've used so many methods to no avail. According to the rules, our escort agency should get 100 points. There's no doubt about that, right? Chi Mingyuan immediately said. Boundless Sea lowered his head in silence. He wanted to object, but after making such a big mistake, especially since the other side pretended to be magnanimous and didn't pursue the matter any further, how could he object? Even Boundless Sea was scared. Zhao Bufan and the others wouldn't touch him either. They could only silently agree. That's good. Chi Mingyuan nodded his head in satisfaction. He looked at Linny, Chi Wenhan, and the others and smiled. Even though there were many twists and turns, the result was satisfactory. They had gotten 100 points, which far exceeded their expectations. Everyone thought that this farce had come to an end. Just as they were about to move on to the next agency, Linny suddenly said, "Everyone, please wait a moment. Isn't there a special challenge segment? I want to try it out. Is there anyone who wants to challenge me? If there is, I'll put the item back where it was." Everyone's eyes lit up. Right? This was the most important segment of this round. Taking out 100 points as a bet, there was a 200-point difference between entering and leaving. However, excitement was just excitement. If they couldn't find the item after so much effort, it was clear how difficult it was. How could a normal escort agency have the confidence to challenge him? "I'll go." Boundless Sea suddenly shouted. He had just suffered such a huge loss. He was worried that he wouldn't have a chance to get back at them. Who would have thought that this kid would actually deliver the opportunity to him? Okay. Linny smiled calmly. He turned around and walked to Area 30. He hid the item again, walked out, and made an inviting gesture to Boundless Sea. "Please. Humph, kid. You don't think that your little trick is so brilliant that no one can break it, do you? Just now, I deliberately gave you a taste of the sweetness. My 4C's escort agency will definitely get this 100 points. Boundless Sea grinned sinisterly. He turned his head and ordered the 4C's escort agency's assistant, "Go call Lai Jizi over." The crowd went into an uproar. Zhao Bufan and the others suddenly realized that Boundless Sea had a backup plan. No wonder he lowered his head. It wasn't like him at all. "Lays around for a while?" Chi Mingyuan and Chi Wenhan, father and son, asked. His expression immediately changed. "What's wrong?" Is this person very powerful? Lin Yi asked curiously. I can't say that he's powerful. His strength is just so. However, he's an extraordinary person. It's said that he's very good at breaking all kinds of formations. He used to wander around primitive places like Lufeng Forest. I didn't expect him to seek refuge with the Four Seas Escort Agency. Qi Wenhan explained. Good at breaking formations? Lin Yi was slightly taken aback and became even more puzzled. What does this have to do with the competition? Brotherling, didn't you use a formation to hide the delivery? Qi Wenhan couldn't help but lower his voice. He was thinking the same thing as Boundless Sea and the others. He felt that Lin Yi must have set up a small camouflage to hide the delivery, which was why so many people didn't see it. Who said that? Lin Yi glanced at him and immediately laughed. At this moment, in the distance, a sloppy uncle came. From head to toe, his clothes were dirty and tattered. He also had a pungent body odor. He looked like an old beggar. This person was the subordinate of the Four Seas Escort Agency, Lai Jizi. After hearing Boundless Sea's explanation, Lai Jizi bared his yellow teeth. He looked up and down at Lin Yi and said disdainfully, "These days, there aren't many people who know how to use formations. Even if they do, it's just a small trick. It's not worth mentioning. It's fine to fool amateurs, but for an expert like me, I can see the problem with one glance. Uncle C, just you wait." After saying this, Lai Jizi curled his lips and strode into Area 30. Lin Yi looked at this guy and couldn't help but laugh. This is the strange person you guys were talking about? Strange people have their own strange appearances. You don't even know this? Have you really not seen the world or what? Are you a frog at the bottom of a well? Boundless Sea sneered after hearing this. Who's the frog at the bottom of a well? We'll know soon enough. Lin Yi smiled faintly. He couldn't be bothered to argue. Haha, stubborn duck. Boundless Sea didn't waste any more words. He waited outside for Lai Jizi's good news. He thought it would be a piece of cake, but he didn't think that he would wait for 2 incense sticks worth of time. Time's up. Chief C, can you invite your master Lai out? Qi Mingyuan immediately said. The time limit for the challenge was 2 incense sticks worth of time. Go and call him out. Boundless Sea's heart skipped a beat. He didn't know what was going on inside, but he could only do as he was told. However, when he saw Lai Jizi come out empty-handed, his face immediately turned ashen. He didn't find it again? Uncle C, you can't blame me for this. Apart from the large illusion formation outside, there really isn't any formation inside. There isn't any formation at all? Lai Jizi spread his hands helplessly. The crowd was in an uproar. Everyone looked at Lin Yi strangely. He couldn't find it anywhere. Now, even a formation could be ruled out. How did this guy hide the dart? Could it be that he was a professional in this field? Haha, thank you for the 100 points, Chief C. As a senior in the Four Seas Escort Agency, you spared no effort to support our Heaven's Equal Escort Agency's junior. You really are an elder. We will gladly accept the 100 points. Qi Mingyuan said happily. Boundless Sea's face was as dark as the bottom of a pot, but it was too late to regret. They had only obtained 70 points in this round. In the end, they lost a whole 100 points. Not only did they not get a single point in the 4th round, they lost 30 points. This wasn't just a big loss, it was a loss of blood. In comparison, the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency had won this round. They had earned a whole 200 points, which was more than the total points of most escort agencies. It was enough to make people go crazy with jealousy. Next one, Boundless Sea didn't even want to look at Qi Mingyuan and the others. He turned his head and was about to go to the next house. At this moment, someone suddenly stood up and shouted, "You hit it so well. Why don't you give our Dragon Boat Escort Agency a chance and let us try too?" The crowd was in an uproar. The person who spoke was the Dragon Boat Escort Agency's chief escort, Long Kiba. Chapter 44:38. Read 336. As he spoke, Cheng Haonan and Wu Baoliang stared at Lin Yi maliciously. They had a ferocious expression as if they wanted to swallow him alive. Linny discreetly glanced at the two of them. He wasn't interested in Long Kiba, but he had to get rid of the other two before he left the southern continent. Especially when he saw the latter, he couldn't help but be slightly startled. He was the target of his trip. Linny had seen Wu Baoyang's portrait on the wanted poster from the law enforcement hall. Although it was his first time seeing him in person, he could recognize him at a glance with his iconic triangular yin-yang eyes. Linny had known for a long time that Wu Baoyang would also participate in the South Continent Escort Agency's event. Unfortunately, from yesterday until now, he had only seen Long Kiba and Cheng Haonan, but he had not seen Wu Baoyang. Perhaps Wu Baoyang was regarded as their last trump card, so he stayed in the inn and did not come out at all. But now, he probably saw an opportunity, so he was temporarily pulled over. This guy is finally willing to show himself. Lin Yi sneered in his heart and secretly clenched his fists. After holding it in for so long, he couldn't help but feel a little unable to restrain his killing intent. However, in the end, he didn't act rashly. Young Hero Ling, you decide. Qi Mingyuan looked at Lin Yi. He didn't know how Linny had done it. He was afraid that it would ruin their plan, so he didn't dare to make a decision. Hee, since someone has taken the initiative to give us points, of course, the more the better. Linny smiled indifferently. You sure talk big. Then I'll let you open your eyes wide and see who's giving away points. Long Kiba waved his hand and said to Cheng Haonan and Wu Baoyang, you two. Let's go in and take a look. Let's see what this kid is up to. With that, Long Kiba led his men straight to the 30th area. There weren't many people, just him, Cheng Wu, and the other two. Although they weren't part of the bandit group, there was still a huge commotion earlier. They had already heard everything that was going on inside, so there was no point in bringing more people. He only needed Wu Baoyang, and that would be enough. The three of them walked into Area 30. At this moment, this small area that was surrounded by darkness was already a mess. The small cargo ship had been dismantled into pieces of broken wooden planks, floating on the surface of the sea. Even the surrounding reefs had been cut into pieces by Zhen Qi. Moreover, the seawater was muddy. It was obvious that the bottom of the sea had been stepped on by someone, and the sand and mud underneath had all been turned over. Hee, you sure did a thorough search. Long Kiba laughed coldly. If it was anyone else who saw this scene, their heart would definitely skip a beat. If even this could not be found, it meant that it would be difficult to find. However, he was not worried at all. It's up to you now. The reason why he called Wu Baoyang over at the last minute was because Cheng Haonan had said that this military advisor had a unique skill that could be used to find things in this kind of competition. It's a piece of cake. Wu Baoyang's aura suddenly exploded. At first glance, it seemed like he was only at the golden core great perfection. However, immediately after, Area 30 suddenly turned upside down. Seawater, sand, and broken wood, everything in the area suddenly flew into the air as if they had lost the shackles of gravity. The entire area became a weightless world. Immediately after, Wu Baoyang slowly clenched his palms. Everything in the air instantly went berserk and collided with each other violently. Originally, it was only fragmented, but after the collision, it became even more fragmented, until it was nothing more than a grain of rice. The military advisor is indeed an expert. I have never seen or heard of such a magical skill. Long Kiba suddenly had an eye-opener. If they were to really fight, although his strength was not weak, it was limited to direct fighting and killing. He did not have such a powerful and magical skill like Wu Baoyang. It's just a piece of cake. This skill is called All Things Kill. Anything with a slightly weaker quality will eventually be crushed into powder by something stronger. The treasure chest is made of special dark steel. If I'm not mistaken, its quality should be the strongest. So, when All Things Kill is over, the only thing left is the treasure chest. Wu Baoyang smiled mysteriously. In front of the military advisor's All Things Kill, including the formation, everything will be destroyed. Any concealment method will be ineffective. As long as it is hidden here, it will definitely be revealed. Cheng Haonan added. With his relationship with Wu Baoyang, he was very clear about these methods. Ha 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 ha, then I'll wait to celebrate for you, military advisor. After this round of competition, our Dragon Boat Escort Agency will jump to second place in the standings. We will surpass the Heavens Equal Escort Agency. Long Kiba laughed proudly. As expected, it will happen soon. Wu Baoliang's triangular yin-yang eye revealed a hint of pride as he commented, however, this Ling Yi is quite skilled. He was able to hide the package so well that normal methods wouldn't be able to find it. No wonder Boundless Sea and the others suffered. Hee, isn't this a small trick in front of the military advisor? The Heavens Equal Escort Agency only knows how to play tricks. They will never be able to show off. This time, let them have a taste of kicking an iron plate. Chung Haonan laughed coldly. While the three of them were chatting, the all things kill hanging in the air finally ended. Anything with a slightly weaker quality had already lost its shape. Even the rocks had been crushed into powder. The pure shall rise, the corrupted shall fall. Under Wu Baoliang's control, the all things kill hanging in the air slowly separated into two layers. The slightly lighter ones all floated up, and the slightly heavier ones all sank. During this separation process, anything that had a shape could be seen clearly. The treasure chest had to be among them. Long Kiba, Chung Haonan, and Wu Baoliang all stared at all this with wide eyes, hoping to find the treasure chest that they had expected. However, even after the separation, there was nothing. This, Wu Baoliang choked for a long time, unable to say a proper sentence. Long Kiba and Chung Haonan were also dumbfounded. Just a moment ago, they had the demeanor of an expert. They were so confident and calm, but they still couldn't find the treasure chest? Weren't they making a fool of themselves? Military advisor, what should we do now? Long Kiba was completely flustered. Because they didn't get a single point in the second round, the Dragon Boat Escort Agency only got a total of 160 points in the first 3 rounds. Even if they included this round, they would only get 50 points in the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. That would only add up to 210 points. To be continued. Chapter 44-39. If they gave the Heavens Equal Escort Agency another 100 points, wouldn't they only be left with 110 points? After 4 rounds of competition, they had only scored 110 points. Even if this score did not put them at the bottom of all 32 escort agencies, it was still at the bottom. Yet, they still wanted to become one of the top 5 escort agencies and replace the Heavens Equal Escort Agency. Wouldn't that be laughable? Don't worry. My destruction of all things cannot go wrong. As long as the item is hidden inside, it will definitely be enveloped by it. There's no way it can escape. Wu Baoliang forced himself to calm down. Then, what do we do now? Chung Haonan and Long Kiba couldn't help but look at each other. There's one possibility. The quality of the Shin iron used to create this treasure chest isn't up to standard, so it was destroyed by the destruction of all things. Wu Baoliang pinched his chin. Yes. Shin iron itself is very rare. This item is just a symbolic item for the competition. The 4 Seas Escort Agency might have used some low-quality Shin iron to make up for the difference in price. Long Kiba immediately agreed. The 4 Seas Escort Agency was the host agency of this year's Grand Assembly. After receiving a large sum of funds, all the supplies were provided by them. No matter who it was, they would want to make a profit from this. But if that's the case, what do we do? Chung Haonan frowned. Those people outside didn't care what methods you used. Only by taking out the treasure chest would you be able to prove that you had found the sealed package. Otherwise, it would be nonsense to say that everything was about length, style, literature, and learning. Yes, military advisor, do you have a plan? Long Kiba looked like he had a headache. Kiki, I do have a plan. Wu Baoliang rolled his eyes and laughed sinisterly. In any case, there definitely isn't a treasure chest here. After we go out, we just have to make a false accusation that Ling Yi destroyed it. I'm sure he won't be able to take it out. When that happens, we won't be able to explain ourselves. Yes, I think that Boundless Sea suffered a huge loss. He definitely won't accept it. When the time comes, he will definitely help us deal with Ling Yi. We'll naturally be in an invincible position. Chung Haonan's eyes lit up and nodded. Military advisor, what a brilliant plan. Let's do that. Long Kiba was instantly overjoyed. After the three finished discussing, Wu Baoliang took the lead, followed by Long Kiba and Cheng Haonan. They immediately rushed out aggressively. You. Wu Baoliang strode in front of Lin Yi and pointed at Lin Yi's nose. He said fiercely, "When you put the escort back just now, I saw you. Did he take the opportunity to destroy it? It was destroyed just now?" When Boundless Sea heard this, he shivered and joined in. "Okay, I was wondering why even Master Like couldn't find him. So it was you who was secretly messing around. Men, arrest him." As soon as he finished speaking, the experts from the Four Seas escort agency immediately surrounded Lin Yi. They had always disliked Lin Yi, and now they finally had a chance to vent their anger. Seeing this, Cheng Haonan and Long Kiba were overjoyed. Sure enough, Boundless Sea was a ready-made fighter. "What do you want? Are you trying to bully the Equal Heaven escort agency?" Qi Mingyuan roared. Qi Wenhan also hurriedly led the people of the Equal of Heaven escort agency over. Both sides faced each other, their auras surging, and the atmosphere was extremely tense. It looked like a bloody battle was about to begin. "Everyone, please calm down." At this moment, Lin Yi stood out. After everyone calmed down, he looked at Wu Baoliang and said, Let me give you a word of advice. Next time, before pointing your finger at me, write your will. Also, what evidence do you have?" "Humph, evidence?" Wu Baoliang laughed evilly. "I knew you would use this to brush me off. It's very simple. I dare say that even you can't take out the escort treasure chest from inside. This is the best evidence. Okay, as the judge of the conference, I order you to go inside and take out the escort treasure chest. If you can't do it, then don't blame me for being impolite. Our South Continent Escort Agency Conference is not a place for a nameless brat like you to play tricks." Boundless Sea said forcefully. "Chief Escort High, some people like to fart. You don't have to come so close to smell it, do you? Or could it be that you can't afford to lose, so you're using this opportunity to find an excuse to take revenge?" Qi Mingyuan stood out bravely. Qi Wenhan and the others did not show any weakness, each of them standing in front of Lin Yi. Looking at their backs, Lin Yi couldn't help but feel moved. Coming to South Continent was really worth it, being able to get to know such a group of people. "Chief Escort High, and everyone else, don't be anxious." Lin Yi patted everyone's back, walked to the front, and said, "This matter isn't that complicated. Since they want evidence, then I'll give them evidence. Isn't it just taking out the escort treasure chest? I'll take it for you now. Open your dog eyes wide and look carefully." After saying this, Lin Yi immediately separated the crowd and walked towards Area 30. However, he was stopped by Wu Baoliang. "Wait, just to be safe, I think it's better to search them first before going in. Otherwise, why don't you sneak the escort treasure chest in and claim that you took it out from inside? Makes sense, search them." Boundless Sea immediately agreed. The escort treasure chest was not small, but it was not big either. A normal person would not be able to smuggle it in, but if it was a golden core expert who knew how to camouflage, it might be possible. "You're going too far." Qi Wenhan couldn't stand it anymore. The other side's intentions were clear. They were clearly here to pick a fight. Lin Yi looked deeply at Wu Baoliang, killing intent flashing in his eyes. If he wasn't afraid of implicating the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency, he would probably have killed them already. However, now was not the time for that. "Okay, I'll satisfy you. However, for the sake of fairness, I request an unrelated notary to search me. As for you guys, I'm afraid that you'll frame me." Lin Yi's tone carried a hint of ridicule. The representatives of the Chamber of Commerce here can all be notary witnesses. There shouldn't be any problems with them searching me, right?" Boundless Sea snorted coldly and immediately had a group of representatives search Lin Yi's body. Lin Yi cooperated. In front of everyone, he let them search him a few times. After confirming that there was nothing, Boundless Sea, Wu Baoliang, and the others finally let him go. They stared at Lin Yi as he walked into Area 30. If the rules didn't forbid it, they would have gone in to monitor him. "I want to see what kind of tricks this kid can come up with." Wu Baoliang, Long Kiba, and Chung Haonan sneered. He had even used all things kill, but he still couldn't find the escorted item. This proved that there was either nothing inside, or it had been destroyed by him. Otherwise, the world would have gone mad. However, when they saw Lin Yi walk out with the escort in one hand, Wu Baoyang and the others felt the world spin. F***CK. Has the world gone mad? To be continued. Chapter 4440. You've given up now? Lin Yi casually threw the escort on the ground. Everyone's eyelids twitched. Then, he said calmly, you can settle the bill now. Say it in a small way. Huh. Everyone was taken aback for a moment before they realized that he was referring to the points he was referring to. What kind of trick did you use? Wu Baoyang didn't give up. His triangular eyes emitted a dangerous light. He was about to rush forward and grab Lin Yi's collar. You can give it a try. Lin Yi suddenly laughed. He was just worried that he didn't have a chance to kill his opponent. If this guy took the initiative to attack him, he could justifiably kill this scum in front of everyone. At the same time, Qi Mingyuan, Qi Wenhan, and the others suddenly emitted killing intent, forcing Wu Baoyang to stop midway. If he didn't stop, these people would really attack together and kill him. Humph. I'll find out soon enough when you die in my hands. Wu Baoyang laughed cruelly. After looking deeply at Lin Yi, he said something to Chung Haonan and Long Kiba, then turned and left. Looking at Wu Baoyang's back, Lin Yi couldn't help but feel pity. This guy was arrogant, but he wasn't stupid. Of course, if he was really stupid, he wouldn't have lived until today. He would have fallen into the law enforcement hall's hands in the northern part of the island. Chief Escort High, you have nothing to say now, right? Lin Yi turned to Boundless Sea and said. Boundless Sea's face was ashen. He didn't even say a word. He coldly snorted and turned to leave. Looking at his posture, he was too lazy to search the next two escort agencies. He wasn't in the mood to do so. Lin Yi, Qi Mingyuan, and Qi Wenhan looked at each other and smiled. Then, he turned to the crowd and said, which other escort agency is willing to challenge me? F***CK. Everyone's faces darkened. You've already earned a whole 300 points in this round. You've dragged the Four Seas Escort Agency and the Dragon Boat Escort Agency into the pit, and you're still not satisfied? You still want to take advantage of me? Lin Yi's gaze swept over the remaining people in charge of the escort agencies. They couldn't help but shrink their necks. There was definitely a trick to this, but it was definitely not something that could be solved in a short period of time. Only a fool would fall for it. That's it? Forget it then. Lin Yi was a bit disappointed. Since no one came to challenge him, there was no need to return the escort. As for the bandits, even though their leader, Boundless Sea, was gone, the match still had to continue. Zhao Bufan and the others were still there. He immediately turned to the next escort agency. Brotherling, can you tell me now? Where are you hiding? Seeing that everyone had gone far away, and that his own father, Qi Mingyuan, had also followed them, Qi Wenhan hurriedly rushed over. Compared to the excitement of obtaining 300 points, he was actually more curious about this matter. It's a secret. Lin Yi smiled and didn't say anything else. The answer was simple. He just casually put it into the space of the jade pendant. Of course, no one would be able to find it. However, this answer could not be told to anyone. It could only remain a secret forever. Qi Wenhan felt like 100 claws were scratching at his heart. However, Lin Yi refused to relent. There was nothing he could do. No amount of coaxing or pestering would work. In the end, he could only bitterly give up. However, he quickly threw this matter to the back of his mind. This was because the bandits had already found the other two escort agencies' escorts. At this point, the fourth round of the Hidden Darts competition was over. Everyone returned to Magic Cold Plaza. At this point, the publicly announced rankings were already over. After 4 rounds of competition, the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency had a super high score of 670 points. Their advantage was so great that everyone could only look up to them in awe. Next, in second place was the traditional powerhouse Divine Wind Escort Agency with a total of 270 points. Although it was far from being able to compare to the outstanding Heaven's Equal escort agency, it still trampled on the other escort agencies. As for the Four Seas escort agency, who was originally in second place, because they had challenged the Heaven's Equal escort agency in the fourth round of competition, not only did they not manage to keep the 70 points they had earned, but they also lost 30 points. In the end, after 4 rounds of competition, they had a total of 240 points. They were tied for third place with the other 5 major escort agencies. It was worth mentioning that the ambitious Dragon Boat escort agency had a total of 110 points in 4 rounds of competition. They were ranked 5th from the bottom. If this trend continued, they would be ranked among the 5 weakest escort agencies in the South Continent, let alone competing for a spot in the top 5 escort agencies. On the publicly announced rankings, the 32 escort agencies' scores were clear at a glance. Some were happy, while others were sad. Now, the focus of everyone's discussion was naturally on the Heaven's Equal escort agency, the super dark horse of this competition. Although it was one of the 5 major escort agencies in the previous competition, most people did not have high hopes for the Heaven's Equal escort agency in the beginning. The bets were unanimously against the Heaven's Equal escort agency, with at least 7 out of 10 people betting on it falling out of the top 5 escort agencies. Of course, these people were already crying their hearts out. After 4 rounds of competition, the Heaven's Equal escort agency had scored 670 points, pulling a huge gap of 400 points from the second place. This was definitely unprecedented. Unless there was a catastrophic accident, the Heaven's Equal escort agency, which originally belonged to the Four Seas escort agency, had already fallen into the hands of the Heaven's Equal escort agency in this competition. From this competition onward, the power structure of the escort agency industry in the South Continent would undergo earth-shattering changes. The focus would shift from the dark cold territorial waters to the previously unknown green arc territorial waters. From then on, the Heaven's Equal escort agency would replace the Four Seas escort agency as the #1 wealthy and influential agency in the South Continent. This was the consensus of almost everyone. Of course, other than the mainstream public opinion, there were naturally many other opinions. People who wholeheartedly criticized the Heaven's Equal escort agency could still be seen. Regardless of whether these people were backed by other escort agencies, at least their arguments were not without reason. Looking at the previous South Continent escort agency grand meetings, although the first 4 rounds of competition were important as they could establish an advantage and widen the gap between the two sides, the real deciding event was still the last round. Although the Heaven's Equal escort agency currently had a huge advantage, if they performed poorly in the final round of the competition, other escort agencies would take advantage of the situation and overtake them. Even the latecomers might overtake them. Only the escort agency that survived the 5th round of the competition and had the last laugh would be the true winner. Of course, the 5th round of competition would only begin the next day. At least for today, the Heaven's Equal escort agency was undoubtedly the most popular and the most popular agency among the chambers of commerce. Compared to the various discussions in the market, none of the 32 escort agencies, including the Heaven's Equal escort agency, dared to let their guard down at this time. All of them were training their troops and making their final preparations for the final battle tomorrow. Floating astronomy. Long Kiba slapped his head and said happily, "If we had gone to him for help before today, Boundless Sea might not have responded to us. But now, he will definitely help us with this small favor. The enemy of my enemy is my friend." This phrase has been tried and tested many times. Without further ado, Long Kiba and the other two discussed the matter. He immediately set off for the Four Seas escort agency, asking to see Boundless Sea. While the three handed over their name cards and waited to be notified, Boundless Sea was smashing cups in his study. Next to him was an exquisite tea set. One by one, they threw them on the ground, and the sound of banging rang out incessantly. This was Boundless Sea's habit. Whenever he was in a bad mood, he would smash the tea set. After venting out most of the evil fire, his mood naturally calmed down. The servants stood to the side, trembling with fear, waiting for Boundless Sea to finish smashing. They had to quickly clean up the broken pieces on the ground. Otherwise, if Boundless Sea got annoyed and got angry again, they might be the ones to suffer. When Boundless Sea finished smashing, his anger subsided. The guard, who had been waiting to the side, didn't miss the opportunity to hand over Long Kiba's and the others' name cards to Boundless Sea. Dragon Boat Escort Agency? What are these people doing here? Boundless Sea frowned slightly as he looked at the name card. Although the Dragon Boat Escort Agency wasn't the weakest in the South Continent, they had always been suppressed by the equal of Heaven Escort Agency. They had never had a chance to stand out, so naturally, they weren't worthy of his attention. Uncle C, do you want me to send them away? The guard at the door suggested after observing the situation. The Southern Continent Escort Agency Festival was being held here. These days, the heads of all the escort agencies would come to the Four Seas Escort Agency to pay their respects. The stronger large escort agencies were able to see Boundless Sea. As for the smaller escort agencies, they were all sent away with just a word. They didn't even get to see Boundless Sea's face. Wait. Boundless Sea hesitated for a moment, then made a decision. Take them to the small hall and wait. Yes. The guard replied and left. He couldn't help but feel surprised. This unknown dragon boat escort agency had some weight in Uncle C's heart. Even though they didn't have the right to enter the main hall, they could at least enter the small hall and not be sent away with just a word. What they didn't know was that Boundless Sea didn't care about the Dragon Boat Escort Agency at all. The reason why he agreed to meet them was purely because of what happened during the day. He felt that there might be something more to it. Long Kiba and the other two were led into the small hall. No one came over to serve tea, and no one came over to talk to them. They just waited like this for a quarter of an hour. When the three of them were filled with anger and couldn't hold it in any longer, Boundless Sea finally arrived. Dragon Boat Escort Agencies Long Kiba, Poison Eye Mercenaries Chung Haonan, and Wu Baoyang greet Chief Escort Sea. Although they were unhappy, they didn't dare to be negligent in front of Boundless Sea. They hurriedly stood up and greeted him. Please sit. I was talking to an important guest just now. Sorry for the delay. Please don't take it to heart. Boundless Sea chuckled. This was bullsh** tea. In reality, he was just drinking tea in his study. He just wanted to ignore the three of them. Chief Escort Sea, you have many matters to attend to. Please forgive us for disturbing you. Long Kiba hurriedly smiled apologetically. You're being too polite. Why did the three of you come to my Four Seas Escort Agency? Boundless Sea couldn't be bothered to waste words with the three of them. He went straight to the point. Long Kiba was stunned when he heard this. He looked at Chung Haonan and Wu Baoyang. They were clearly caught off guard. He originally wanted to exchange a few more pleasantries to get closer to them and increase their chances of success before talking about the matter. All right, let's not beat around the bush. Since Chief Escort Sea has come straight to the point, we won't beat around the bush. Long Kiba simply said, one doesn't come to a temple without a cause. We came here to ask Chief Escort Sea for a small favor. Chapter 44-42. That's right. I hope Chief Escort Sea can help us arrange an opponent for the upcoming match. Long Kiba blurted out. You want me to throw the match? Boundless Sea's expression changed and he said coldly, don't even think about it. The Southern Continent Escort Association's grand gathering has always been fair and impartial. No cheating is allowed. Otherwise, the grand gathering would lose its purpose. Please leave. Wait. Boundless Sea was about to send them off when Chung Haonan hurriedly said, Chief Escort Sea, please wait. We want you to arrange an opponent for us. It's none other than the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. Heaven's Equal Escort Agency? Boundless Sea's movements paused. These were the words he didn't want to hear the most. When he thought of how badly he had suffered, he couldn't help but be furious. That's right. The one we want to deal with the most is Heaven's Equal Escort Agency's Ling Yi. Chief Escort Sea, you've also suffered at his hands before. I'm sure you hate him to the bone. We can work together. Chung Haonan quickly said. He saw Ling Yi as a thorn in his side. In order to deal with Ling Yi and avenge his son, he was willing to pay any price. If he missed this opportunity, it would be too late for regrets. Oh, Boundless Sea slowly put the teacup back down. He didn't continue to chase them away. Instead, he fell into deep thought. As expected, there's a chance. Long Kiba and the others looked at each other. Their spirits rose and their hearts settled. Tell me, why do you want to deal with Ling Yi? Boundless Sea's fingers drummed rhythmically on the table as he looked up at the three. If it weren't for Chang Haonan's words, he would definitely have chased them away. After all, the Four Seas escort agency's name was still there. If these people didn't keep their mouths shut and spoke carelessly, it would be easy for them to cause trouble. Even if it was just for his image, Boundless Sea had to maintain his impartiality. However, the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency and Ling Yi were two different matters. Chang Haonan was right. He hated Ling Yi to the bone. The Four Seas Escort Agency had fallen from being the overlord of the escort agencies that was at its zenith to its current state of being overshadowed. It was ranked third on the scoreboard, almost falling out of the top 5. This was the main culprit behind all of this. It was Ling Yi. It would not be an exaggeration to say that out of the 670 points that the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency had obtained, at least 500 points had come directly from Ling Yi. This person's ability was so abnormal that it could not be viewed with common sense. After suffering at his hands twice in a row, even Boundless Sea had to admit that as long as Ling Wan was there, the chances of his Four Seas escort agency turning the tables were minuscule. But now, a hired thug had delivered himself to his doorstep. He didn't mind adding fuel to the fire and killing with a borrowed knife. During the day, Boundless Sea had seen the conflict between Long Kiba and Ling Yi. Therefore, they believed that they had the foundation to become allies. However, before that, they had to first figure out the specific situation. Otherwise, it wouldn't be like using a borrowed knife to kill someone. Instead, he had become the knife in the other party's hand. Chief Escort High, you might not know this, but our Dragon Boat Escort Agency and the Poison Eye Mercenary Group are located in the same city as their Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. We've always been incompatible like fire and water. It's not the first time we've fought and killed each other. Long Kiba hurriedly explained. Haha, there can't be two tigers on one mountain. Boundless Sea raised his eyelids. This wasn't strange at all. People of the same trade were enemies. With two escort agencies squeezed together, it would be strange if they could get along. As for the Poison Eye Mercenary Group, there was an unwritten rule in the South Continent seas. All the so-called mercenary groups were actually the original pirate groups that had been whitewashed. Therefore, there was usually a blood feud between them and the local escort agencies. It was normal for them to be like fire and water. Not only that, my only son, Shin Tian, died in the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. He was killed by this Ling Wan. Chief Escort High, tell me, how could I let this bastard go? Chang Haonan added, gnashing his teeth. Oh, there's such a thing? Boundless Sea was moved. The hatred of his son's death was absolutely irreconcilable. Looking at Chang Haonan's expression, he wouldn't joke about this. Chief Escort High, in front of me, I don't dare to lie. Therefore, in order to avenge my son's death, I beg Chief Escort High to open the door of convenience and let me kill my enemy. This Chang will be eternally grateful. Chang Haonan was a smart person. He no longer talked about the hatred between the Four Seas Escort Agency and Ling Wan. Instead, he shifted the blame to himself. Your request is reasonable. Boundless Sea's expression was unfathomable. Long Kiba and the others thought he was going to agree and were overjoyed. They didn't expect him to suddenly change the topic. However, although our Four Seas Escort Agency suffered some losses in the Grand Meeting, this doesn't mean that we have to take revenge privately. It's taboo to destroy the public for personal reasons. The fairness of the Southern Continent Escort Agency's Grand Meeting will not be destroyed in my hands. Not in the past, not now, and not in the future. This dignified official reply left Long Kiba and the others dumbstruck. They couldn't help but look at each other. Wasn't this change a little too quick? Seeing that Boundless Sea was still speaking righteously and didn't seem like he was faking it, The three felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over their heads. They were immediately disappointed. Their little row already had the resolve to be the knife. They took the initiative to let the other side borrow the knife to kill them, but the other side didn't accept the knife. How were they supposed to play? Looking at the Southern Continent Escort Agency's grand meeting, only the 5 judges from the 5 great escort agency had the opportunity to play tricks in the open. The others were far from qualified. Unfortunately, Chung Haonan and Wu Baoyang, these 2 amateurs, didn't need to be said. Even Long Kiba himself, because the Dragon Boat Escort Agency had always been weak, couldn't climb up to the higher branches of the 5 great escort agency. Now that he finally had the chance to use Lingwan, a common enemy, to ask for Boundless Sea's help, he didn't expect to hit a wall. Things had already reached this point. Staying any longer would only make a fool of themselves. Long Kiba and the others looked at each other and could only salute Boundless Sea with flagging interest. If that's the case, then we won't disturb Chief Escort Sea any longer. We'll take our leave now. Wait. Boundless Sea suddenly stopped them. For the sake of justice, I definitely won't use my position to avenge a private grudge. However, seeing that you have a blood feud with me, this matter is pardonable. I can agree to help you secretly, but I can't be too biased. Do you understand? Chapter 44-43. As long as we can think of a way for our Dragon Boat Escort Agency to fight against their Heaven's Equal Escort Agency, it would be best if we can challenge Ling Yi. That way, we can guarantee that he will die a horrible death. Chung Haonan said impatiently. Is that true? Boundless Sea was stunned. Although he had never seen Ling Yi in action, he had been in close contact with him. Moreover, as the chief escort of the #1 escort agency in South Continent, his judgment of people was far sharper than that of ordinary people. Even if he did not know how strong Ling Yi was, he could at least see that this person was not easy to deal with. If he, the chief escort, personally fought, it would not be a problem. However, the problem was that the strength of the South Continent's escort agency had to be limited to the Golden Core stage. Experts above the nascent soul stage were not allowed to participate. This was the biggest problem. That's right. Our military advisor is an eccentric person who specializes in practicing a unique skill. Although his strength is suppressed to the Golden Core Great Perfection, his true strength is not even a middle stage nascent soul stage's opponent. He is our trump card. There is no need to use him in the previous few matches, but the finals are coming up, so there is no need to hide anymore. As long as we arrange for Ling Yi to fight against our military advisor, that kid will definitely die. Chung Haonan pushed out the silent Wu Baoyang. Oh, Your Excellency is so amazing? Boundless Sea suddenly became interested and looked at Wu Baoyang for the first time. In the South Continent's sea, the strength of a middle-stage nascent soul stage was already considered powerful. They could basically do whatever they wanted. However, an expert in the Golden Core Great Perfection had the strength of a middle-stage nascent soul stage. This was more than just rare. There was probably no such eccentric person in the entire Heaven Stage Island. With such strength, he was an invincible existence in the Golden Core stage. No matter how strong Ling Yi was, he could not be a match for such an eccentric person. You flatter me. It's just that my cultivation method is a little special. I can use a secret method to suppress my strength on the surface. Wu Baoyang pretended to be humble and cupped his hands. However, his pair of triangular yin and yang eyes could not hide the pride. This was actually a kind of helplessness, but he did not expect that it would come in handy now. Ever since North Island fled to South Continent, after getting to know the Cheng family's father and son and joining the Poison Eye mercenary group, Wu Baoyang had not broken through. Of course, this was only limited to the realm on the surface. In fact, his real strength had been advancing by leaps and bounds. Otherwise, how could he live up to the name of an evil cultivator? He did not do it on purpose, but it was because of his latest improved version of the evil technique. It was only effective for those in the Gold Core stage. Once he broke through to the nascent soul stage, it was not that he couldn't continue to cultivate, but if he wanted to continue dual cultivation with those women, he would have to suck them to death on the spot. The reason why he was exposed in the North Island. It was because of the disappearance and death of a large number of women that they had no choice but to flee to the South Continent. Although the South Continent's sea region was notoriously chaotic, it was inevitable that they would be discovered if they repeated the same trick. If that was the case, even with the protection of the Poison Eye mercenary group, they wouldn't be able to survive. He could not stay in the South Continent for long. Chaos was chaos, but no place would openly tolerate the existence of evil cultivators. Even the seas of the South Continent were no exception. As a result, whether it was Wu Baoliang, Cheng Haonan, or even Chang Ketian, who had already died to the divine nun of the East Sea, they all used a special secret technique to suppress their cultivation. Currently, their strength remained at the great perfection of golden core, but their true strength had already surpassed regular nascent soul cultivators. Wu Baoliang's strength had reached the peak of early nascent soul long ago, and with the power of his evil technique, he could still easily defeat opponents at higher cultivation levels than him, even if it was measured in terms of cultivation. In other words, regular mid-nascent soul cultivators were nowhere near Wu Baoliang's opponent, let alone mere golden core cultivators. As for Cheng Haonan, the captain of the Poison Eye mercenaries, he also practiced the evil technique that Wu Baoliang had developed and improved. Coupled with his powerful foundation from before, his strength was even greater than Wu Baoliang's. He could easily kill regular peak mid-nascent soul cultivators instantly. Special cultivation method? Boundless Sea rolled his eyes and immediately burst into laughter as he exposed them. An evil technique is an evil technique. You're being so secretive in front of me. Is this the attitude you have when you're asking for help? Wu Baoliang was immediately alarmed. Cheng Haonan and Long Qiba's eyes were filled with unconcealable fear as well. They all looked at Boundless Sea cautiously as if they were facing a great enemy. No matter where evil cultivators went, they would definitely be hated by everyone, which was why they would beat around the bush and use the excuse of a special technique. However, they never thought Boundless Sea would still see through it with a single glance. What were they to do? In the waters of the southern continent, the major escort agencies were undoubtedly the representatives of the righteous. Chapter 44:44. Cheng Haonan and Long Qiba were stunned for a moment. Only then did they realize what was going on. They secretly gave Wu Baoliang a thumbs up. If it wasn't for his timely answer, they would have been dead on the spot. It was obvious that Boundless Sea had wanted to kill them. After all, killing a few evil cultivators could make his Four Seas escort agency famous. There was no reason not to do such a good thing. On the other hand, Boundless Sea didn't want to let go of the opportunity to deal with Ling Yi, so he suddenly asked. If Ling Yi was easy to deal with and his subordinates could deal with him, then he wouldn't need Wu Baoliang and the others to kill the evil cultivator. However, if Ling Yi wasn't easy to deal with and his subordinates couldn't deal with him, then he would need to weigh the pros and cons. Fortunately, Wu Baoliang's reaction was fast enough and his answer was witty enough, so they were able to escape. Boundless Sea didn't make a decision that was disadvantageous to them. The reason was simple. If Ling Yi could cripple a peak early-stage nascent soul expert, then a normal golden core expert wouldn't be able to deal with him. At least, they wouldn't have a 100% chance of winning. So, if Boundless Sea wanted to deal with Ling Yi, he could only borrow Wu Baoliang's hand. This way, he wouldn't be disadvantageous to them. In the end, the hatred for Ling Yi surpassed the benefits of killing the evil cultivator. Boundless Sea's decision allowed Wu Baoliang and the others to escape. I wonder what Chief Escort Hai's arrangements are? As soon as the crisis was averted, Cheng Haonan hurriedly asked impatiently. Tomorrow is the last round of the competition. The content isn't much different from the past. The entire day will be a challenge, Boundless Sea revealed. Oh? Then, Chief Escort C, what are the rules of this challenge? Long Qiba asked. It wasn't just to deal with Ling Yi. He wanted to know the rules of the competition in advance, even if it was just one night earlier. It would also allow him to prepare more carefully, which would affect the final score. The fifth round of the competition is called the Escort Agency Free Challenge. Boundless Sea looked at the three and didn't hide it. It didn't affect him anyway, so it didn't matter if the three knew beforehand. At that time, each escort agency will have 2 chances to challenge other escort agencies. At the same time, they will also have 2 chances to fight. The bet for each match is 100 points. The winner gets 100 points. The loser loses 100 points. The stakes are so high. Long Kiba's eyes immediately lit up when he heard that. If he won all 4 matches, he would be able to obtain a total of 400 points. Especially if the points were plundered from the opponents, the difference would be even greater when the points were added together. Even though the Equal of Heaven escort agency was currently outshining the rest of the pack, with a huge gap of 400 points between them and the second-place team. If they played their cards right in the 5th round of the competition, even the Dragon Boat escort agency, which only had 110 points, would be able to win. It was not impossible to surpass it. That's right. The previous rounds were just small skirmishes. The last round is the real highlight. This has always been the rule of the South Continent's escort agency grand gathering. That's why you can use this opportunity to challenge the Equal Heaven escort agency. Boundless Sea nodded. Challenging the Equal Heaven escort agency is not a problem. However, what if Lingy refuses to accept the challenge? Chung Haonan and the others looked at each other worriedly. That was very likely to happen. Just like in the first round, Ling Yi did not personally participate. If it was the same tomorrow, Ling Yi would not be able to participate. If it was the same tomorrow, even if they could steal points from the Equal of Heaven escort agency, they would not be able to take the opportunity to kill Ling Yi. That would be too regretful. Don't be in such a hurry. What I just said were the original rules of the competition. However, in order to deal with Ling Yi, I can think of a way to add a special rule. Boundless Sea smiled mysteriously. Oh, what do you think, Chief Escort C? Chung Haonan and the others cooperated and asked. I've already had people investigate beforehand. That Ling Yi's status in the Equal of Heaven escort agency is that of an honorary escort head. That's why, in addition to the regular competition, I can add an escort agency head challenge. Boundless Sea narrowed his eyes and sneered. An escort agency head challenge? Chung Haonan and the others were stunned. They did not understand what he meant. It's very simple. The rules of this additional challenge are that all participants can directly challenge the Golden Core Stage upper echelons of each escort agency, including the head escort, deputy escort head, and honorary escort head. Moreover, they can challenge them an unlimited number of times. The escort agency cannot refuse the challenge. After saying this, Boundless Sea could not hide his delight as he took a sip of the high-quality spiritual tea. Chung Haonan, Wu Baoyang, and Long Kiba digested this for a while before they finally understood the huge advantage this special rule brought them. That's great. Chief Escort C, this special rule is practically tailor-made for us. It's very practical. Long Kiba was overjoyed. Then Chief Escort C, when the time comes, as long as we challenge the upper echelons of the Equal of Heaven escort agency, Ling Yi will have to accept the challenge? Chung Haonan and Wu Baoyang were also overjoyed. Of course. Otherwise, wouldn't my special rule be for nothing? Boundless Sea smiled coldly. Unless the Equal of Heaven escort agency forfeits and is willing to be removed from the Southern Continent Escort Agency Alliance, they will have to follow the rules. Haha, that's right. Chief Escort C is mighty. Chung Haonan and the others laughed in agreement. Coming to the Four Seas Escort Agency was the right decision. Even though there was a slight risk if they hadn't come, how could they have had such a good opportunity to deal with Ling Yi? With just Chung Haonan and the others' abilities, they might not have had a chance to deal with Ling Yi until the end of the conference. However, things were different in Boundless Sea's hands. He was the chief escort of the Four Seas Escort Agency, the head of the 5 judges of the conference, and the one who set the rules of the game. If he wanted to do something to someone, it was too easy. Moreover, he would say it in a dignified manner. Even if the others were dissatisfied, they couldn't object. Status determined everything. This saying was not false at all. However, what if when the time comes, when we challenge the Equal of Heaven escort agency's upper echelons, Ling Yi still refuses to accept the challenge and sends someone else to fight? Long Kiba was still a little worried. Even if Boundless Sea's special rule was passed, the Southern Continent Escort Agency Grand Conference was a competition between the 32 escort agencies. It wasn't just a display of one person's strength. No matter what competition it was, the premise was that the escort agency was participating. In other words, if Wu Baoyang really wanted to issue a challenge, he could at most challenge the upper echelons of the Equal of Heaven escort agency. It was unlikely that he would directly challenge Ling Yi. Otherwise, it would become purely a personal grudge. Where would the dignity of the Southern Continent Escort Agency Grand Conference go? To be continued. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.